All right, good evening again. Aloha, welcome. My name is Rhiannon Kucharski. I am going to be your moderator this evening for the Alawai public meeting. I am a trained facilitator. I work with the Corps of Engineers. In my day job, I am the Chief of Civil and Public Works for the Honolulu District and also our Congressional Liaison. So I'm very honored to be here with you this evening. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life to come and be with us. Okay, so this is the first of two public meetings this week for the Alawai General Reevaluation Study. The team has come up with a tentatively selected plan that is now out for public review, and our need and intent this evening is to take formal public comments on that draft plan from you. Verbally, you can also submit them online. There are QR codes on the handouts that you received, as well as you can handwrite a comment on the comment card that you received and hand that in tonight if you'd like. The verbal input will be given from this microphone to my left and your right. And we would just ask that when your number is called, that you please come up to the microphone to give your comment. And if you do provide written input or a verbal comment or multiple comments, the team will make sure to respond to all of those through the process of proceeding to the final report. So now we will begin with the Oli, with Deja Maniz. Mahalo, that was beautiful. Okay, at this time we would have opening remarks and introductions. We will start with Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Pevey, the commander of the Honolulu District of the Corps of Engineers, followed by Mayor Rick Blangiardi.
Thanks, Rhiannon, and thank you, ma'am, for that Oli. I'll explain later why it's kind of special to me, too. Mayor, thank you so much for your team and the partnership throughout what we've done, and look forward to continuing this strong partnership to get this study in this project. Aloha, good evening. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Pevey. I am the commander for the Honolulu District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and it's a complete honor to be here. I want to say mahalo and thank you for the community for attending. Thank you for your continued engagement and being in your involvement, and also for all your comments that went into the tentatively selected plan. I can't tell you enough how important your feedback is to us, to myself and to the mayor, to make this plan more holistic. Your feedback has made an impact, and that helps us to understand the right project in order to build a safer, more resilient community within the Alawai watershed community. This project currently started in 2019. There were previous studies, right, that were not implemented before because of the criticality of this project. Congress authorized money in order for part of the federal government, us, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, to be a part to start the study again with our partners, the city and county of Honolulu, and with you, the community, a key part of what we're doing, not only here, but throughout the lifetime or the lifespan of the actual study itself. But that was done in 2019 for fresh ideas and a fresh look in order to provide the best plan we can for Honolulu. The Corps is a large federal organization. In times like this and in situations or studies like this, we take from a multitude of experience, a multitude of expertise across what we call our enterprise or our organization. And due to the complexity of this watershed, and due to the complexity of the study, that's what we did. And so we brought experts across our organization, across the United States, to be a part of this team. Some you see up here today. Some are online across the nation. But what we do is we leverage that for projects like these in order to, again, provide you a solution. The team is led by Dr. Eric Merriam, who'll talk tonight, and also the team from the city is led by Haku Biles, who also will give you an idea of the TSP this evening. So I'm not sure I'm the main show at all. They'll be the main show this evening. One thing I do want to mention is that this study is still tentative. It's a very iterative process, and I want to thank you for, again, being involved. It's about thinking the right things, asking the right questions, and I believe you have. It's about, we continually ask ourselves in this iterative process, what is the right plan that considers the environmental, the economic, the social, and the cultural impacts? Kind of on a personal note, one thing that's near and dear to my heart is culture, because that is what we have, and I'm sorry for getting emotional about it. But what's important to me in this project is making sure we're honoring culture at the same time. I was part of the wildfire response in Maui. It's funny, I'm gonna have to rub my ranger tab, right? So I'm up here being emotional. Rangers don't cry, they get temporarily disoriented. So is just being a part of that effort and respecting culture, the culture heritage of that area in Lahaina, right? I see the same thing here in the watershed and bringing that to the forefront. I know we're going to talk a lot of technical things. It's going to be a lot of engineering. It's going to be a lot about what the science brings up. You see some of the renderings here and the posters over here to y'all's right, y'all's left, my right. But it's really about working together, right? And so I really view community and the cultural aspect of this project just as important as anything else. So as we start to try to answer those questions, understand we're in that comment period as Rhiannon mentioned. And that ends in January 8th, and we really look forward to your continued comments, and we do take those seriously because those will help us refine the analysis and refine the engineering, because we believe this is a right study for the right area, and we are dedicated to you to get this right. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming. I want to especially note that State Senator Carol Fukunaga is in the audience, and our board chair, Tommy Waters, is here tonight. Thank you both for being here, and all of you. You know, I know this is a very emotional topic, and you're going to have a chance to have your voice heard. You've already been heard. I think I'm just going to take this opportunity to tell you where I'm coming from as mayor in this time with this incredible responsibility, not just on the LOI watershed, but overall on all the things we're dealing with. So I would tell you the subject of climate change in our administration is very real. The work that we've been doing with respect to sea level rise and shoreline management, and certainly anything that could be preventative against major weather events, all of which we know as island dwellers we're very vulnerable to, we want to do. And I would tell you that 3 years ago, probably this week, before I was even sworn in, I was asked to come to Mayor Caldwell's office, and we sat down with the Army Corps of Engineers, it was Colonel Marshall at the time, and they told us game over, that the price tag had come in at $650, $1 million after everything they did. It was a bridge too far, it was too costly, the federal government wouldn't pay for it. Certainly the liability, financial liability between the city and the state, and how that deal, or how that had been orchestrated, also was a bridge too far, and so it seemingly fell apart. Now, I was sitting there about to take office, knowing full well that in the last 20 years of my life, having worked here and led media companies, most notably Hawaii News Now in the last decade, remembering the footage of 2004 and watching the cars come down Manoa Road in disbelief that that could happen here, or the 30 days and 30 nights of rain in 2006, or 2016 with Hurricane Darby and the incredible flooding that went on, or for that matter, our very first year in office out at Haleiwa. So those are all real water events. When you live in the news business, as I did for so long, 43 years of my life, you know, you look at a lot of video, you see a lot of tragedy, you see it happening elsewhere, you think that'll never happen here, lucky we live Hawaii. In Maui, they knew years ago about their liability. Much has been said, much has been written since the fire took place. And I don't know how many of you have been to Maui at Ground Zero, but I have on more than a couple of occasions. To watch it on television, to watch video is one thing with a sense of detachment. To be there and feel what 5 square miles of complete rubble looks like is beyond my own comprehension or anything I'd ever experienced before. It definitely looks like a war zone. When I think about neighborhoods like Makiki, Pololo, Manoa, certainly, Kapahulu, and Waikiki, and what that represents and what there is there to protect, then I would tell you my attitude on this, despite the fact that now we've got a price tag of over $1 billion, we have to get this done. So the young lady who was sitting behind me just said, so you're going to raise our taxes? That's not what we're going to do. That's not my intention to do that. That's not the simple answer to that. We're going to go back to the federal government. I made it pretty clear once we learned what the prices were to see what we could negotiate. We've already been on the phone more than a couple of times with Senator Schatz and our congressional delegation. We're going to look at different grants or whatever. But if I had to deal with a situation from a leadership standpoint, and if you had to endure a situation as people who live here, would you rather deal with $12 billion of destruction? Or would you rather deal with trying to come up with some money to protect ourselves from having something like that happen? I would not want to be in the destruction phase of this and say we should have done something. But there were too many people with too many different opinions, and nobody really knew what to do, or they couldn't come to an agreement, or maybe it just cost too much. There's no such thing as cost too much. Last week we met with the Army Corps of Engineers. I actually thought when we said we were going to go back and redo, the numbers would come in differently. I was hoping for maybe something like $500 million. When we learned that it was $1 billion, I had sticker shock. I'll be really honest with you. Like, how can that happen? How can cost be the reason why we killed the project 3 years ago, and now we're back at considerably at more than a third of that? How can that happen? But that's the reality. In talking with the Army Corps, they've told us the projects all over the country are at a minimum $1 billion. But what's at stake here is big multiples of that number, big multiples, and it's very real. And I'm not a doomsdayer, and I'm not given to drama, but I don't want to be somebody on my watch who looks the other way because it was too hard to figure out, especially if it's only about money. If it's only about money, we can figure it out. You know, there's a wonderful old definition of a cynic, Oliver Wendell Holmes. Says this definition of a cynic is somebody who knows the cost of everything and the value of nothing. The value of what we have to get done here is extremely important for future generations. Take yourself out of the picture. Think about the future. Think about our responsibility at this moment in time, and think about the world we live in. If we fail to act because we can't come to an agreement or a concession that better minds know how to do something, and we agree we're going to do that, knowing full well that it's not going to satisfy everybody, then shame on us as a people. If we get defeated because of money, shame on us because of people. And I'm not sounding cavalier about that, but there's got to be a way to do this, given what's at stake for Oahu, what's at stake for the world, given the fact that Hawaii is what it is. So we're determined to get this done. And I can tell you from a leadership standpoint, decisions will be made, and not everybody will agree with them. That's what you live with. And the function of any good leader is to make decisions. So you need to know we're fully prepared to make decisions, and we're fully prepared to fight for this with every ounce of strength we have to make it happen for Hawaii. I just want you to know that. That's where I'm coming from, and I appreciate everybody being here tonight. God bless all of you. Merry Christmas. Now, I have to go. I'm going to stay in the back room for a while. But tonight in Waikiki, tonight's the last night of Hanukkah, and they're lighting the menorah. And Jewish community is very much ill at ease right now. And Rabbi Ixel asked me if I would come and be there from a leadership standpoint and support. And I'm going to go there tonight and hoping that there won't be any incidents. And that's the only reason why I'm not staying for the rest of the night. This is a very compelling moment, and I want to be there at their special request. But I'll be in the back of the room. I've got lots of my colleagues are here and other people. But if you heard anything in my voice, hopefully what you heard was determination in the face of adversity to do something that we all know we need to do. Thank you.
Okay, so a few items that are good to know for all of us this evening. Again, the purpose of tonight is to maximize our ability to accept public comments from you on the draft report for the Alawai. All comments are welcome. And the study team, just so you know, are here in listening mode tonight to hear you and listen and take all the comments in, and they will be processing those and responding through the process as we proceed to get to the final report to everybody's comments. So for this evening, to maximize the ability for everyone to have time to speak, we're going to allow each person to come up to the microphone according to the number that you were given when you checked in. And we want to make sure that you phrase your statement as a comment, and if you can. And if you have questions, that's okay. Write them down, and we will also try to update the web page with questions and answers after this evening. And we are going to give you right now a brief overview presentation by the team of the tentatively selected plan and the highlights from the draft report. And then after that, we will move into the verbal comment portion of the meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team.
Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cindy Okpal. I am one of the project managers on this study. All right, well, this Alawai flood risk management study, it's been around for quite some time now. It began back in 1998 with a flood risk study out in Waikiki as well as along the Alawai Canal. From there was a 2004 Manoa flood, which expanded the study scope to include the upper watershed, including the Makiki, Manoa, and Palolo valleys. In 2017, that feasibility study was completed, and the project was authorized and appropriated for design and construction in 2018. From there, the project team moved into what we call the pre-construction engineering and design phase. And so the study team had the opportunity at that point to conduct additional analysis, collect additional data throughout the watershed, and update their modeling to the latest and greatest technology models that technology has produced over time. And from that, it was identified that the previous project that was authorized in the 2017 study required modifications so that it could function at the same level of performance as that which was authorized back in 2017. And so the 2020 engineering documentation report, it summarized what those modifications, what the recommended modifications were. And then after that, validation study in 2021, is where the team went through the cost, economic, and environmental analysis to identify, the impacts of what that modified system from the engineering documentation report were. It was at that point in 2021 that it was identified that the modifications simply were not economically justifiable. And so at that point, there came a point where the choice was either terminate the study or move forward with a general reevaluation study. And so we were very fortunate that our leadership recognized the importance of this study to the community, as well as the risk that remains here, or the flood risk that remains here in this community. And so with that, it kicked off the general reevaluation study in 2021. Our leadership, as Colonel Pevey mentioned, they wanted a fresh set of eyes on this. They wanted fresh solutions to the problem at hand. And so they brought in a team of experts from across the nation. And as we have introduced Dr. Eric Merriam, so he's a study lead here. But with that study team, we have had the opportunity to evaluate flood risk, not only constrained to that 1% annual exceedance probability event, which is what the previous team was constrained to with that 2020 engineering documentation report. With this current study, the team was able to study flood risk at all event levels. And so with that, we have now, this team has had the opportunity to evaluate flood risk at all storm levels and find a solution that maximizes benefits while minimizing impacts. All right, and so this map on the right-hand side provides a general overview of our watershed. On the far left is the Makiki, then we have Manoa, and on the far right, Palolo streams that all drain into the Alawai Canal, which is a man-made canal constructed in the 1920s to drain the wetlands. It was never designed, or the original design was not intended as a flood control feature. And so because of that, the canal has overtopped multiple times in 1965, 1967, and then again with the passage of Hurricane Iniki in 1992. Also throughout the watershed, there's been flooding at other locations, including in Manoa, the 2004 flood, and then also, as the mayor had mentioned, 2006 with the month-long rainfall that just never seemed to end. And that created widespread flooding throughout the watershed. And so with the study team utilizing previous modeling data, previous data collected, as well as gathering input from the community here, created these study objectives. The first one is to reduce life and safety risk, then to reduce economic damages associated with inundation to structures, and then to reduce impacts to commerce and tourism. And so these study objectives are really the building blocks to our planning process. And so we'll be going over some of the alternative plans that were developed. And it's really, the alternative plans were developed to make sure that we are able to address these study objectives. All right, so this slide summarizes our study process and how we got to where we're at right now in selecting a tentatively selected plan. The first step was to identify problems and opportunities. We held a series of workshops with the community where we heard from everyone. We used crowdsourced reporter as well in gathering community input into what they believe the problems and opportunities related to flood risk are in this watershed. We also utilized the previous studies as well as conducted site visits to update our models. The models also incorporated climate change and sea level rise so that we could properly assess future climate and considerations there. Then from there, we worked again with the community, and thanks to all of you, we were able to develop 224 management measures. From those measures, they were formed into 9 alternative plans, which Eric will go over in the next slide. We held a series of public workshops all through 2022 to discuss the management measures, then the initial array of alternatives, and then the final array of alternatives back in December of 2022. From there, we moved on to evaluating and comparing the alternatives, incorporating economic benefits, life safety risk, and environmental impacts. And we held another workshop in April 2023 to discuss the evaluation of those alternatives as well as a prospective plan. And so the materials and recordings of all these engagements that have occurred in the past can be found on the project website. But today's presentation is really going to be focused on the tentatively selected plan. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Eric Merriam.
All right, great. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, everybody, for being here this evening. So the map that's showing right now and playing demonstrates what our modeling indicates a 2% annual exceedance probability storm to be. That's a storm or a flood with a 1 in 50 chance or a 2% chance of occurring any given year. And so you can see the pattern of flooding throughout the watershed. Like we know in this watershed, water jumps the banks up at Woodlawn Bridge and has flown down through the University of Hawaii along Manoa Stream. Water also jumps the banks along the Manoa-Palolo Canal, as well as all along the Alawai Canal. And so there are complex and multiple sources of flooding throughout this watershed that really dictated and determined how we developed alternative plans. And so again, as Cindy just mentioned, our three objectives were to first reduce life safety risk, second to reduce economic damages, and third to reduce impacts to commerce and tourism. And so Cindy mentioned 9 plans. So we took the 224 management measures, we screened them out. All of that information can be found on our management measure tracker, which can be found on the study website. We compiled those into 9 different alternatives. And I highlight those 9 alternatives here, kind of summarizing them today. One, to just kind of keep the time of this presentation down, but also you can again go and find a much more detailed analysis of all of these, both in the plan formulation tracker on the website, as well as in the videos and presentations that are available online from those previous events. So the 9 alternatives were the no action plan. We always have to look at doing nothing as an alternative, and that ultimately that's what we compare all the other alternatives to. We looked at alternative 1, which is maximizing storage throughout the watershed. So we tried to store water in all available green spaces, including the Alawai Golf Course, the Manoa Valley District Park, and Makiki District Park. This alternative 2A was looking at conveyance using existing infrastructure. Could we upsize existing stormwater conveyance systems to divert water from those communities out into the ocean? 2B was conveyance using flood walls. Could we maximize conveyance of water in the existing system by increasing the height of that system and conveying that water more effectively? Alternative 2C was a secondary outlet. Back in the original design of the Alawai Canal, we know that there was a secondary outlet originally proposed on the eastern side of the canal. And so, we thought that, that could also increase the output of the canal during these flood events. We looked at tunnels, so I know the SWIFT tunnels were looked at in the past, and so the team took another look at those, updated the modeling, updated the cost, updated the engineering, and assessed whether or not those would be viable. We also looked at natural and nature-based measures, so things like reforestation, storage of water in green spaces, maybe not through detention, but through creation of wetlands and so forth. Alternative 5 was a hybrid alternative where we looked at both conveyance and storage, saying, well, one of these may not be the most, may not be in and of itself the best solution. Maybe it's a combination of those. And then finally, we looked at non-structural alternative. When I say non-structural, I'm talking about things like elevation of homes and flood-proofing of businesses. So things that reduce the consequences of flooding without modifying the flood pattern itself. And so when we looked at all of these things, again, we consider them all with respect to both economic benefits, reductions in life safety risk, other social benefits as well, economic or environmental effects, and we combine all that information together. And when we looked at it all, the hybrid alternative came out, and we presented this as a prospective plan back in April of this year. So next slide, please. So again, all of that information is summarized, and so now what we're going to do is talk about the tentatively selected plan. What is the plan that we're recommending in this report right now, in the draft report that's out for public comment? So this is a map of it. Again, the maps are over there as well. So there are a few key features in this tentatively selected plan. The first is a flood wall at Woodlawn Drive. So again, that flood wall prevents water from jumping the banks at Woodlawn Bridge and flowing down through the University of Hawaii and those other communities. There's a flood wall at the confluence of the Manoa-Palolo streams that reduces impacts to that community, but also serves to minimize the effects of the Woodlawn flood wall upstream. So when we keep the water in the stream up there, obviously there's more water flowing downstream towards the confluence of those two streams. So that flood wall is necessary to minimize any impacts of Woodlawn on those communities. The third feature is a flood wall along Manoa-Palolo and the Alawai Canal. You can see that the flood walls essentially extend from the H1 all the way around both canals, ultimately around the golf course as well. And then finally, the detention basin at the golf course. The golf course detention basin is comprised of both earthen berms as well as flood walls, essentially to enclose the Alawai golf course, allowing it to store water during these high flow events. And by storing water in the golf course, you're decreasing the height of the water in the Alawai Canal during that peak flow. So those are what we call the structural measures. So those measures modify the characteristics of the flood pattern. We also have non-structural features incorporated into the plan. Those are elevation of residential structures. So again, just raising the structure so the first floor is outside or above the flood elevation. Flood-proofing of non-residential structures. So this could be waterproof membranes, waterproof doors, waterproof windows. And then finally, potential acquisition and relocation. So I'm going to kind of go through each one of these main features on the next series of slides. So next slide, please. So first, we're looking at the Woodlawn Drive flood wall. It is assumed to be 6 feet high right now, and it's on the right descending bank. So that means as you're looking downstream, it's on the right side of the bank. You can see kind of where the flood wall will be, but I also want to note that there is one road closure on Woodlawn Drive that would only be closed during flood events. And again, that's to ensure that a hole doesn't exist in the flood wall that it would allow floodwaters to kind of escape and go downstream, or down through the University of Hawaii in those communities. Again, that road closure would only be closed during flood events. You would be allowed to move freely during all other events. And as we talk about these road closures and we think about them tonight, these would be during periods of time where these roads would be inundated anyway and should not be passed. So move on, please. So the Quali Road flood wall, or the flood wall at the confluence of the Manoa and Palolo streams, again, it is also assumed to be 6 feet in height. It's on the left descending bank of Manoa and the right descending bank of Palolo, kind of hugging the bank to that adjacent community. There are also road closures for this feature as well at Kawali Road, and then also at the pedestrian bridge just upstream. Again, these road closures would only be closed also during flood events. And finally, the largest suite of features, the flood walls at the Alawai and Manoa-Palolo canals. So again, these are assumed to be 6 feet in height. They're on both sides of both canals, again, encircling the entire canal. There are a number of road closures: King Street, Kapiolani Boulevard, Date Street, Kalakaua Avenue, McCulley Street. Again, these would only be closed during flood events, again, when these roads would be impassable due to floodwaters already. We incorporate a number of 4 canoe closures at the existing canoe access points. A few things that I'll highlight on the next series of slides. We took feedback received during the previous iterations of the study, and we incorporated an elevated walkway. It's a 3-foot elevated walkway, as well as a volcanic rock facade to allow the community to engage with the water, be able to visualize as you recreate along the canal itself, and then have it be a feature that is less impactful to the aesthetics of the overall area. The Alawai Golf Course Detention Basin, it consists of earthen levees and flood walls. The height of these features is 6 to 9 feet, so this is a change from the prospective plan. We increased the height of some of these areas to 9 feet to maximize storage in this basin to make the system function more effectively. It's important to note that the golf course would remain operational. It would remain a golf course. It would be playable during all times when there was not flooding. And so here's a few renderings that were released with the draft report. You can see here that this is as somebody would view the flood wall feature along the Alawai Canal. It's an average height person. You can see the 3-foot flood wall to your left. You can see that you can still see the Alawai Canal. You can see Diamond Head. The walkway itself is American Disability Act accessible, so you can see the ramps that would allow folks to be able to move up in a wheelchair. You can also see that we incorporated a bike lane to the right to kind of remain consistent with the Complete Streets project. I will say, however, that those types of local decisions regarding the presence or absence of a bike lane or another lane or a parking lane, those types of decisions could still be made locally, and our plan would not impact those decisions. But here we're showing a bike path along the elevated walkway. You can also see the lava rock facade. No, you're okay. You can move forward. You can also see the volcanic lava rock facade and canoes that have accessed that through the canoe closures. So we can move on here. I think I did well. So those are the structural features. Again, those features that modify how the floodwaters impact the communities adjacent to them. As I mentioned earlier, we will incorporate non-structural features like elevation of residential structures, floodproofing of non-residential structures, and potential acquisition and relocation as mitigation to ensure that the plan is either positive or neutral. So we cannot do harm to anybody when we implement a plan, and so by implementing these features, the effect on everybody will either be positive or neutral. The exact locations of these measures is not yet known as we continue to move forward. Colonel Pevey mentioned earlier on that we still have a lot of design work to move forward, and as the design continues to change, the location of these individual features will need to change as well as we kind of get refinement in how the system will be modeled moving forward. So this is just a map. These two maps show what we call the future without project condition. So this is the 2% event. Again, an event that has an average chance of occurring, or a 2% chance of occurring in any given year. So the map on the left shows if we did nothing, right? So what the 2% event looks like. The map on the right is with the tentatively selected plan in place. So you can see immediately, if you start up in Manoa, you can see that the flood wall up on Woodlawn Drive prevents the water from jumping the bank and moving down through the University of Hawaii and the other communities that are adjacent to it. You can see that we prevent water from, the plan would prevent water from spilling out along the Manoa-Palolo Canal and along the Alawai Canal, both on the Waikiki side and the Makali-Mo'ili'ili side. That one area really that we were not able to effectively address with this plan was coming from Makiki. So all of the flooding that you see in the Makali area is due to the Makiki stream. So it's really important to note that even though there's still some inundation there, we have effectively removed 3 of the sources of flooding for that area, from Manoa Stream at Woodlawn, from the Manoa-Palolo Canal, and from the Alawai Canal. So the only source of flooding to those areas is from the Makiki stream. So you could expect the flood inundation depths to be much, much less because you're only getting flooding from one source. So as the mayor alluded to earlier, the cost of this project is over $1 billion. So that's the total first cost, which is the cost to implement today. When you incorporate the cost of interest during construction and operation and maintenance, the average annual cost, if we think about it annually, would be about $40 million. It's important to think about that, though, within the context of the benefits that we accrue. So if we expect to spend about $40 million annually in terms of that average annual cost, we expect $58 million in average annual benefits. So again, we are getting more than $1 of benefit for every dollar spent. And when you look at that benefit with respect to the equivalent damages that we would expect without the project, so we would expect over $100 million, almost $101 million in equivalent annual damages. And so again, it just puts it in perspective, right? There are a lot of potential damages out there. The project would do a lot to reduce those damages, would reduce that $100 million damage number by 58 million, almost 60% of the damages annually we're expected to reduce. So we would have a net annual benefit of $17 million and a positive benefit cost ratio, again, meaning that we're getting more benefit per dollar spent. The other thing I want to note here is that this is only looking at economic benefits, right? This doesn't capture the benefits to life and safety, right? Every home that's not inundated has a decrease in life safety risk. And so all of those other benefits, the regional economic development benefits, the jobs that are created, things like that, this doesn't capture, but this captures the financial piece. Next slide. And so it's important to talk about what follows. So the draft report will be updated based on the feedback tonight, the feedback through the entire 45-day public comment period. As this public comment period is ongoing, we have concurrent agency technical reviews, and we have an independent external peer review team also looking at it. And so the team is going to be inundated with comments from you all, which is great, but also from all of the other technical reviewers. And so we compile all that information together, we crosswalk all those comments together, and we identify how we need to update the report, how we need to update the plan. And then we make those necessary updates, and we release a final report that, again, will be available for public review. There will be a 30-day public review comment period with that final report. All of your comments tonight, I know, Rhiannon mentioned earlier that we are in receive mode. And so in the past, we have had a very back and forth dialogue, right? It's those workshops where we talked back and forth. Tonight, the team needs to focus on receiving your comments so that we're not thinking about how we're going to respond while you're talking, right? We need to focus on receiving those comments, and then we need to take those comments back to the rest of our experts, the rest of our technical team, so that we provide the most accurate responses to your comments. So please do not take our lack of response tonight as an unwillingness to respond. We are trying to be as efficient at listening to you and provide you with the best responses possible by taking it back to our team. So all of your comments, although they will not be responded to directly tonight, will have detailed responses in the final report. So every comment will be responded to. After that, the final report will be summarized in a chief's report that gets sent to Congress for authorization and secondarily appropriation or funding for construction. So if we think about the overall study process, so Cindy talked about how we got here tonight, right? Those 4 gray arrows on the top are how we got there, right? We develop alternatives, we evaluate and compare alternatives, we make a selection. The next line, right, so the red line denotes where we are. the red vertical dotted line. The blue arrows in the middle are the overall feasibility process. So you can see that after this, the release of the draft report, we accept your comments, we refine the design, we update it. So there's additional design work ultimately before it gets recommended. At that point, we're usually at like a 20 to 30% design, right? This thing isn't fully designed yet at the end of the feasibility report. When the chief's report's signed and it goes to Congress and they authorize it and fund it, we then still have the design and implementation or construction phase. So that's where we go from like a 20 to 30% design to 100% design, and it actually gets implemented into the ground. And so it's important to note, as Colonel Pevey said, right, we are still in the feasibility process, right? This is not a final product. This is not the final recommendation. This is your opportunity to provide comments on the tentatively selected plan. Next slide, please. So I pass it back to Rhiannon. I tried to be efficient with my talking tonight.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, just to go over this. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you to Eric. All right, so in case you missed it, physical comment cards are available at the table with Cindy. They're in the back. So if you need another comment card or want to write additional comment cards later, feel free to take some with you. We want you, if you're coming up to the microphone, to give a verbal comment this evening. Again, please frame your comment in the form of a statement. And we would also like to call you up in the number in which you were given. So we're going to start with 1 and proceed through everyone who has taken a number to come up and give a verbal comment. When you do come up, we have this microphone for you to speak into, and you will see on the screen indications for your time for speaking. So everyone will have 3 minutes to give a verbal comment, and we would ask that when you come up, please state your number. That'll help me, thank you very much, to keep a sense of where we are in the order so I know who to call next. And please state your name, and if you're here representing an organization, if you could please state that, we would really appreciate that. And then, of course, please begin speaking. This is being recorded by Olelo, and we are going to get a transcript. So if you can, please speak clearly and maybe not too fast. That will help the transcript to be more accurate. And we really look forward to hearing everybody's comments this evening. Next slide. Okay, so we have a visual timer that we're going to be using to help all of us to stay within the 3 minutes that each commenter has. Again, our intent with this is we want to make sure there's time for everyone who wants to be heard verbally to be heard. And so when the green bar is up, that indicates that you have 3 full minutes and that you're in the beginning of your comment. When the yellow bar comes up, then that means that you have 2 minutes. And then the red bar will come up and start kind of coming down when you have 1 minute, and then it will show that your time is over. And when you see that, if you could please just end your sentence or your thought, and then we will move on to the next commenter. Does that make sense, hopefully?
I have a question. One person is allowed to give his own 3 minutes to somebody else that might need to talk longer?
For the evening, the plan that we have is to give everybody 1 chance at 3 minutes. Yes, and then if you have more that you want to comment, please give us a written comment card or provide a comment online, and that way we can capture if there's more. Thank you so much. Okay, so with that, I believe we will go to the next slide to get started. Okay. And again, just keep in mind, you are being recorded live to Olelo, so you are now a TV star if you come up to give a verbal comment, so congratulations. And this is a QR code. If you would much rather just put in your feedback online, you can scan that with your smartphone and do that there. So with that, I would like to go ahead and call up speaker number 1. Thank you, sir. Your microphone is there. If at any point I call your number and you do not want to walk over to the microphone or are unable, just raise your hand and I will bring this microphone to you. Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Scott Snyder and I am a resident in Manoa. And my wife and I live along Manoa Stream, and Manoa Stream is actually part of our property. We own property on both sides, so this project's very important to us because our street name actually showed up in the report. So I want to say that we support any form of flood control, and we truly believe that it's needed. I do believe, though, that some of the alternatives are a little bit heavy-handed, and I'd like to see more emphasis put on stream maintenance. I represent the upper watershed, and right now, there's really no good maintenance of the stream, especially on the privately owned portions. It's approximately 1.2 miles of privately owned stream, and that stream is littered with debris, and it's littered with albizia trees. We recently did an albizia sweep of the stream. We eradicated over 1,300 saplings, but we also identified 25 full-grown albizias that range the trunk diameter from 12-inch up to 3 foot. So I believe that the local jurisdictions need to spend more time on stream maintenance and less time on the hard infrastructure. So as far as the report goes, I noticed that alternative 2A was eliminated, but I was a little concerned because that's the alternative that affects my yard directly. And they still have a very detailed plan in the report of that alternative. So if it was eliminated, I'm a little concerned that maybe that it's going to show up again. And I really wouldn't want that alternative to show up. That is a very difficult alternative for Manoa and the residents. And I recommend more natural means and methods, such as removing debris, stream leveling, dredging, and invasive tree control. I also recommend the government taking ownership of the entire stream and developing upstream easements for maintenance and cleaning. In my opinion, no homeowner should own a stream. It's very unnerving and not a very good idea. I also support underground tunnels and floodgates because they don't really have a unreasonable impact on the community. All right, 5 seconds to spare.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Well done. Okay, commenter number 2, please.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for giving me a chance to say my opinion. Thank you for coming for this meeting. As a citizen, we are the leader. Of course, we have a job to lead our city, but spending our time and come to this kind of meeting and talk our opinion is very important. My name is Paul. I'm the founder of Blue Alawai Canal Foundation. I've been speaking with a lot of citizens about the canal for about 4 years. I never meet anybody who wants to have a wall. I never seen anybody wants to keep the pollution. Number 1, wall. Number 2, pollution. We're talking about only wall to prevent the flood. I know it's very, very important to prevent the flood, but what about pollution? Let me ask you and ask us, is there anybody we can pass Alawai Canal with a 6 to 9 feet wall and pollution together for another 100 years? Anybody feel free about that? Raise your hand. Not me. We gotta start with the end in mind. Prevent flood is important, yes. But pollution, flood wall, I don't think so. And we believe prevent flood, we're making more money, but when we block our view and polluting dirty water for another 100 years, $1 billion, we lose more money. I think $100 billion we will lose because no view for the canal and smelly, dirty canal. My country is saying, no matter how busy you are, You can tie a string to the middle of the needle and start to stitch, Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commenter number 3.
Hi, please preserve the view of the LOI Canal. It enhances the ambiance of Waikiki. And, driving along the LOI with your plan as it is now, all we'll see is that wall. And I'm asking that you please preserve the view of the LOI Canal. Number 2, have you considered diverting one of the streams to go somewhere else? So there's only 2 streams venting into the LOI rather than 3. Number 3, have any of you worked with the Board of Water Supply to brainstorm any ideas, as we need more water on this island for a growing population? And we need to think outside the box and maybe kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was asked to give a reminder. If you can, please state your name and your organization before you begin your comment. And so, would you mind stating your name, ma'am?
I'm sorry, I'm not with any organization. I'm a concerned resident, and my name is Valerie Wong.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wong. Okay, commenter number 4.
Aloha, my name is Dave Watase. I'm a retired engineer and have been involved in this project since 2015, spending thousands of hours unpaid on behalf of the community. The whole purpose of doing the reevaluation study was to try to bring down the cost, even if it required targeting a more frequent flood. In January 2020, the Corps' EDR plan was $650 million, and as stated, was not feasible. Yet, this plan is $1 billion and apparently feasible. Mayor Blangiardi asked the Corps to come up with a workable solution within the original $345 million price tag. Workable solution should mean something that will be acceptable to the community and at the same time provide flood mitigation. The Corps has failed. This plan costs $1 billion, which is greater than the benefit of $900 million. But that's before they did their magic through annualization. Basically, this is $1 billion is a $1 billion concrete project that channelizes our most precious waterways. And the sad thing is, the 6-foot-high flood walls are susceptible to high tides, tide surges, and sea level rise. By the way, no contingency is made for high tides and tide surges in their design. A hurricane with a big tide surge would force water into the LOI Canal and render the $1 billion in concrete wall investment totally ineffective. With a floodgate and flood pump, we could lower the canal in advance of a storm and be protected from storm surges. Instead of building up, we could go down, which is much safer. The Corps' concrete flood walls will induce flooding by capping all our interior storm drains to the LOI Canal. They have lowballed this mitigation figure by design by not including thousands of residents by criteria. In the report, the land cost is a responsibility of the non-federal sponsor, and they put a price tag between $100 million and $5 billion for land acquisition. This does not even include Waikiki. The city spent $700,000 to consult Oceanet, who engaged the community and came up with an ingenious concept using tunnels to capture water in the upper watershed with a head pressure completely bypassing the LOI Canal. 2 tunnels from Manoa and Palolo could remove 6,000 CFS from the equation. The cost was $2 $270 million in 2020. The tunnel concept is not influenced by high tides, tide surges, or sea level rise. The Corps eliminated Oceanet's 100-page report in 2 paragraphs, discrediting their findings and their cost estimate. It should be noted that Oceanet did the hydraulic hydrology study, in which is the basis for this whole project for the Army Corps. Oceanet is a local engineering firm. The ultimate solution should include tunnels, floodgate, flood pump, and ecosystem restoration.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
The time has run up. If you would like, we can take the rest of your
Okay.
comment written.
Thank you.
If you haven't already provided
The
it.
other thing is on the distribution list, schools like Kamiki High School, the athletic department, Iolani School, and many other, everyone along the wall, nobody's been contacted, and they are key stakeholders. And they should have a say in this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, commenter number 5. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Commenter number 6 then? Thank you.
Before we get started, we're 6 and 7, and I'm going to read our statement because it runs about 6 minutes. My name is Sydney Lynch, and this is Drew Matsumoto of Protect Our LOI Watersheds. I'm glad to see so many people were able to take time 2 weeks before Christmas to attend this meeting. I would like to focus my statement on the process. Our group has participated in the most recent study to develop a flood control project on the LOI watershed. Due to the pandemic, almost all the meetings were conducted on the government equivalent of Zoom. Many of the people involved said, "Why do you have to tell you all the ideas again? You have them all from the last go-round." The response was the Army Corps wanted to do a total new evaluation. All the community's suggestions were collected and put on a spreadsheet and gradually all moved into the not effective selective column. From the beginning, we repeatedly asked for the data being used to give it to us to evaluate the suggestions, and were stonewalled for the entire time of the study. Near the very end of the town hall meeting this past September at the LOI Golf Course, Mayor Blangiardi said the community would get the data in the final report. By then, it is way too late to run any independent evaluations, as there is a 45-day window to respond to the draft report. Engineers who participated in the process were told their ideas were not viable, but again, no reason why. People became very frustrated and many dropped out, which is probably the point of the process. By not being able to have in-person meetings, the public had no voice except to the powers that be. Previously, people interested in the project would attend meetings and network with other like-minded people. By participating in these Zoom meetings, the community has enabled the city and the Army Corps to now happily check off the box of public participation. The Corps and the city will not make the same mistakes they made the last time around. After much badgering, the Army Corps allowed an email list to be developed where people could be notified of meetings and updates. Previously, their stance was that interested people could monitor the city website. Unfortunately, this list was not notified in the 2 most important cases, the first being in February 2023, when the Corps announced in the Federal Register that it was requesting a supplemental EIS. There was a critical 30-day response window. The request was published February 22nd. This would have gone completely under the public's radar, except on March 11th, a member received a letter that had been sent out to the Union Local 1, advocating that union members respond positively that this project should go through as it means jobs. There is an organization in Washington that reviews the Federal Register to find projects related to Hawaii and potential jobs and funding. This lack of transparency was covered in the Star Advertiser on March 27th. The result of that article was the comment period was extended from March to June 2023. The second time was the publication of this draft and the 45-day review process. It was published by the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development on Thanksgiving Day. A member on that list saw it, informed us, and we immediately notified our city and state representatives, and the next morning the mayor held a press conference. However, the email list was not notified of the publication or meeting until a week ago, cutting off 3 weeks off the response time. Luckily, we heard about it through other sources. The resulting project, 6 to 9 foot walls at over $1 billion, is very sad. People need to keep in mind that the Army Corps is tasked with finding the most cost-effective method, not the best method. The second outlet for the canal, the SWIFT tunnels, pumps, and locks were all rejected because of cost, though the SWIFT tunnels at last evaluation were only $27 million, not $1 billion. I was glad to hear that Major Blangiardi says the cost is no object because we can go for the best plan, not the most cost-effective plan. The Army Corps is restricted to riverine flooding, and the flooding problems have a lot to do with the city drainage system, not just the rivers. The LOI Canal, polluted as it is one of the jewels of Oahu. The view plane across the canals is spectacular and soothing. If this project proceeds, you will have 2 miles of concrete walls. All the trees on the Makai side will be gone, as well as the parking. Graffiti artists will be rubbing their hands with glee. Hawaii News Now showed some pretty drawings of the proposed elevated walkway the other night. During this process, we have consistently asked for drawings, but we're told this process was not far enough along. So it was very interesting to see these drawings appear so fortuitously on the TV news just before this meeting during the draft review process. Make no mistake, from ground to car level, you will not ever see the canal. You will see a raised sidewalk and 6 to 9 foot high walls for 2 miles. The local share of this project is about $370 million, which is the cost of the entire original project. One of the people we have consulted over the years is a riverine restoration specialist. He said that many other people overlooked in the rush for federal dollars that if the city is willing to dedicate that amount of money, $370 million, to flood control, there's a lot they can do with that money even without federal funding. The main cause for flooding comes from streams that have blockages, such as Major Blangiardi just references, Woodlawn and Ainahaina. They come from stream blockages. Though the Star Advertiser 2 weeks ago reported the city was clearing several stream mouths in preparation for the recent rain events, there is still no dedicated funding or schedule to maintain the numerous streams on Oahu. There is no city or state plan to resolve the root cause of the blockages, which is fixing the watershed by removing invasive species and animals. Instead, these efforts are dismissed as not effective enough. If the city and state have been focusing money and effort continuously on this for the past 30 years, imagine how much could have been accomplished. Instead, they keep trying for that one-time brass ring of federal money to pour concrete and create jobs. Individual groups and departments are left to try tiny efforts on their own. Think how much could be achieved if there was a central plan and combined efforts by city, state, and federal entities not restricted to a narrow plan. Thank you, Mayor Blangiardi, for saying cost is no object. $1 billion is a lot of concrete. They have not only to build the 6 to 9 foot wall, but pour a 3 foot high walking area along the entire 2 mile Mackay length. The justification on page 97 for this project references flooding in various areas. The Army Corps drags in red herrings by citing Ka'ava, Hau'ula, Pali Highway, Ainahaina, flooding on H1. The LOI has overtopped twice since 1960. People in Washington will not know that a lot of the references have nothing to do with riverine flooding in the LOI watershed. One of the most egregious representations is that of the 3 Lolo kids who went into the Palolo stream behind Palolo School during a flood event, and someone took a video of them being rescued by the fire department. The Army Corps put that footage on their website as a reason for flood control, totally neglecting to state that these kids went into the channel on their own, nothing to do with riverine flooding. However, the drama from that short video greatly influences people to believe that somehow uncontrolled flooding was responsible for the kids' situation. Though not actually fake news, this type of misrepresentation is reprehensible. Will this project really protect Waikiki? Engineers have questions how the Waikiki storm drain system will drain into the LOI once the 6 to 9 foot walls are installed and if water rises above the storm drain outlets. As we all know, Waikiki is facing a massive threat from sea level rise, and many of the well-heeled hotels are under retrofitting to address this projected 1.5 to 5 foot sea level rise. The Army Corps refused to answer the question is if this retrofitting would also help to address any flooding from Malka. I could go on and on about how the public has been kept at arm's length during the process. I feel that if all the data were given to a firm whose focus was green technology and methods, they could come up with a much better holistic plan for over $1 billion involving all the arms of government and private sectors. They would not be restricted to the rivers and could incorporate storm drains and ecosystem restoration. Regretfully, we cannot endorse this new plan by the Army Corps. If the residents of Hawaii are not careful, they will end up with not only a huge 90-foot high bridge with lights strung all over its top crossing the LOI, but also a walled-in canal. Please contact the Army Corps and tell them if you want a better project, develop with community having a seat at the table rather than the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe we're up to number 8. Is that
Hello,
correct?
everyone. My name is Laura Ruby. I'm a Mo'ili'ili resident for 43 years. I overlook the Alawai Canal and the Manoa Stream. I walk everything. I wrote the book on Mo'ili'ili. I really know what's there. What have I seen? First of all, I want to ask, and I want all of you to participate because I want to hear what they're going to say too. How many of you are Hawaii citizens? That is, you intend to vote usually. Okay, Hawaii residents, but I mean citizens, meaning you're really here, not just flyby. Okay, how many of you live in the Manoa, Mo'ili'ili, Waikiki, Diamond Head, Makiki area, the larger watershed area? Okay, we are the stakeholders. We are the people that make a difference. Okay, I have been to every single meeting of these that they've called. I have written commentary for every single one. Have I heard back from them? No. And this is the problem. So the first thing I want to say is, Mr. Officer from the Army Corps, you named all of the components of what has to be a full EIS. And if you don't know them, you can look them up online. It has to do with historical, social, cultural, environmental, all of the things that have to be addressed before anything can be intruded into a neighborhood. And so this is the first request that we have. This will take a long time. You can't even get to the design build stage until after you've done that, okay? And then I would agree with what Sydney said and others have said too. It's the debris that clogs the streams, and it is the island of silt that's in the middle of the canal. Those are all addressable and should be addressable first. What are the fixes? I suggested low berms around all the schools. I suggested other kinds of things, and one of the things is, in my walking around and all the times, I have seen only the overtopping of the canal, maybe 2 or 3 times. It overlaps a little bit now, but why? Because it's 3 feet lower than the Waikiki side. Why? Because historically, nobody cared about the Mauka side of the canal because there was nobody living there. So they just built up the primary dune, which is Waikiki. And so, how am I doing on my time? Okay, and so I have seen only 2 times when it actually went up to the Manoa stream, where it slightly overtopped everything. And then I have seen, well, just so many other times in which almost all of Koali Road and everything else, they're all 10 feet above the existing stream now. How much higher do you want to go? 6 feet higher there? Do you want to go 6 feet and lose all your view sheds, view planes, which Sydney was mentioning also? We're going to have a field day with graffiti artists, and we will have tourists that will drop off entirely. Is my time finished? Thank you.
Yes. Well done. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, commenter number 9.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. I'm number 9. I'm Daisy Marai, a longtime resident of Kapahulu. Unfortunately, I just found out about tonight's meeting on this morning's sunrise. If I didn't see it, I would have missed this meeting completely. I'm sure a lot more community members would be here to express their comments also. Unfortunately, it was told so late. A lot of people had other plans already. And so I would suggest that all other plans, you really involve the community and bring out the news a lot earlier, like 2 weeks or so, and keep the media occupied, because unless you know about it and happen to see it, you have no idea. And looking at the raised crosswalks, they look beautiful, and the walls. But guess what? That's what the city wants to do for their complete street, Honolulu Complete Street on Alawai Boulevard, reducing 1 lane of traffic to a full, 1 full big lane for the bicyclists. They already have a lane for bicycle people, but no, they want to make it wider. And then don't forget, they want to increase the sidewalk. And don't forget, at Kalaimoku, which crosses over to Alawai School, the city also plans to build their $63 million bridge, which was supposed to be for just pedestrian and bicyclists. You don't need a $63 million with a nice tall 18-story height facade that is going to have lights hanging down from it, wind go through it, making all kinds of noise at night. The lights go through to your bedroom windows. Are we going to have that? Don't forget, that also goes to where part of the wall is. And unfortunately, all of a sudden we hear back to 9 feet. It was told it will go no higher than 6 feet. So that plan, the 3 pictures you see at the very end, that's exactly what the city's complete street has. From that street, they're going to narrow a lane for people making the left turn off Kalaimoku, I believe. And then eventually, they're going to take away a lane of traffic so that we can have more bicyclists. And how many people actually ride bicycles? Like in Kahala, I rarely see a bicyclist. The only people I see riding is maybe some local people. The rest is all tourists in Waikiki. It's a good mode of transportation, but not everyone is able to ride bicycles. You need to think of everyone else. So I don't think that the Army Corps of Engineers really listen to the people, because all you have to do is dredge the canal, dredge the other canals, streams, and keep it clean. That would help with the flood mitigation. You don't need to do all these different expensive projects. You have to really think, because it's a community that's going to be affected by it. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that was 9, correct? So we're up at 10. Commenter number 10.
Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Pevey, I heard you say at the start that you were interested and you really cared about local culture. And ma'am, I'm sorry, I forget your name. You're doing a facilitation at Rhiannon. I heard you say that these individuals here are here to receive and really concentrate on the feedback that we all have gathered here to give tonight. So I'd first like to respectfully suggest that we do away with this ridiculous timer so that we're not losing our breath getting through the comments that we've taken considerable amount of time to prepare. We are all going to respect each other's time and not commandeer this microphone, and it's not going to serve anyone if I'm here trying to breathlessly get through the comments that I've prepared. So with that said, my name is Matthew Kamakani Lynch. I am a founding board member of the Hawaii Green Growth Local 2030 Hub, which goes back to some of the roots of this project. I'm the former director of sustainability initiatives at the University of Hawaii System Office of Sustainability. And I am here today in my capacity as a community member who has been given kuleana, or responsibility, by elders of the watershed, Uncle Bruce Keolani, who grew up in Waikiki when there was 1 or 2 hotels there. We steward and care for Waikeakua Forest, which sits at the top of this sacred watershed. And I'm here to, first of all, state that engineers are incredibly brilliant people. You are a rare breed who find your purpose in solving problems. Therefore, the way that we frame the problem is vitally important wherever we are working with teams of engineers. And I'm here to describe a fundamental flaw in this project and to pose some questions that may help. You see, the current framing of this problem is 1, this watershed is prone to flooding due to its physical characteristics. 2, Waikiki has a dense population. 3, concerns about climate change are growing. And 4, potential damages to infrastructure and economy are significant. This is taken from the project website. Therefore, we must engineer a solution to protect Waikiki from a 100-year flood event. So it's no wonder that, given this basis for design, you have determined that hard walls and water pumps are the best possible solution available to us to solve this problem. But the 2004 flooding event at Woodlawn Bridge in Manoa Valley, which caused more than $80 million of damage, by the way, to the campus, was caused by woody debris that became lodged against Woodlawn Bridge. Albizia trees, of which there's 300 acres of Albizia dominant upland forest that has replaced the native forest that once stood there. Albizia trees are prone to sudden limb shear and are the suspected cause of this flooding event. To my knowledge, this was not a 100-year flood event, and the proposed wall and set of pumps does not address any of the upstream causes of flooding. Nowhere mentioned are the invasive albizia trees, which grow as much as 15 feet a year in this environment and increase flood risk with each passing year. We have actually been asking your teams to solve the wrong set of questions. You see, instead of reducing the problem solution statement to, well, this watershed is prone to flooding, therefore we need to build a flood wall and install some giant pumps, what if we were to more accurately describe the problem as 1, communities throughout the watershed are at risk of damages from a 100-year flooding event because the upland forests of the watershed have been dramatically altered by the introduction and proliferation of non-native species. 2, The area between the coastal ecosystems and the base of the uplands have been dramatically altered by extensive paving over with concrete and asphalt and high-density urban development over many generations. And 3, the natural pathways of flow for the 3 major streams, Manoa, Palolo, Waikiki, Makiki, within the watershed have been altered, diverted, and channelized to protect said urban development, which resulted in the decision to dig the Alawai Canal in the first place back in 1928. What if, together, we ask smarter questions? What if we asked ourselves what downstream impacts can be ameliorated if we were to restore the native koa forests which once stood as magnificent guardians at the top of our watershed? What solutions might become available when we ask ourselves to reimagine Waikiki as a wetland? What if we ask ourselves how we might work throughout the watershed to address these complex problems as Mother Nature herself would? This is not pie-in-the-sky rhetoric. This set of questions I've just posed to you are inspired by actual real-world projects that have been built today, and I will share more about those in the written testimony that we will submit. We cannot fault the Army Corps of Engineers for coming up with this set of solutions, but we should absolutely ask ourselves, seriously, is building a 4-foot wall around Waikiki the best solution available to us? Do we really need to double down on protecting an extractive, tourism-based economy in this rapidly changing and increasingly complex world? We've asked you to solve a problem at the bottom of our watershed, neglecting to describe the upstream drivers which cascade into potentially catastrophic results downstream. We have been asking you the wrong set of questions. In conclusion, we have untapped genius that has been living within this watershed for generations. We're going to hear from some of them tonight. This is the wisdom that can help us mitigate a 100-year flood event and at the same time address other socioeconomic challenges faced by our communities. A challenge of this scale and complexity demands the deep and nuanced understanding that can only come over generations of living in a specific place. We can do better. We must do better. We owe it to all the workers who live outside of where the proposed walls will be. We owe it to our future generations. We owe it to our forests. We owe it to ourselves. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. I believe we're at number 11. Is that correct?
Aloha, my name is Sienna Streamfellow. I grew up in the Ahupua'a of Waikiki, specifically at the Alawai State Boat Harbor, which is the mouth of the Alawai if you don't know the area. I grew up on a sailboat there with my father. Being a surfer, I have watched our waterways my entire life. And currently, I work in Manoa, in the forest, trying to restore our lands. I believe this project will not address our watershed flooding. As someone who works there every day, I see that we are stuck with all these albizia trees, which he had recently talked about. Most of them are over 100 feet tall. A lot of them are over 6 feet in diameter, and these walls that you're proposing are not big enough for these giant trees. We saw in the floods in 2019 in Kauai that a lot of these albizia trees came down and created more flooding because they were blocking the streams. Why aren't we talking about how can we invest in taking care of the land, removing these, and bringing back our forests? One albizia tree can cost $40,000 for the big ones. So if we took out 200 trees, that's like $8 million. This project is proposing for over $1 billion. I think we can afford to take care of our forests. I remember the floods in Manoa. I went to school in Manoa, and one of the albizia trees caused that flooding event that affected UH. Again, we're seeing there's this continuing issue of albizia. Please, these walls aren't going to hold up, and like other people have said, we're going to have sea level rising. What are we doing about that? It's not going to help. Invest in our land. Walls would not outlive us, but the native trees will, to further protect our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 12.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Moilili, just on the other side of Waikiki. So I've been resident there for over 40 years. My children, 3 of them, went to Alawai School. My name is Daniela Minervi, and I'm a resident. And I have a simple question because my other fellow here expressed their comments very well. Mine is very simple. As I was looking at the map presented, one of the last slides presented, I saw the wall, the map of the wall, and I see exactly the same flooded area with the wall, with the 6 to 9 feet high wall, but I see exactly the same flooding happening and endangering the school and the residential area right mauka of the supposed that it happened wall. So that's a big concern and a lot of study, a lot of your precious energy and time to a solution that focuses down toward the, rather than up the hill, downhill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Commenter 13.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Luciano Minervi, and I'm a resident of Moilili. I see 2 different approaches here. The Army Corps likes to channelize everything. The island people instead like to send the water away in the open areas, in the Alavai golf course, in Kapiolani Park, into the ocean. So this is why we have so many differences, because 2 different approaches to problem solving. Also, I saw that the Army Corps produced a project, but not an integrated plan with real collaboration from the city and the state and the community. So I felt an obligation to help everybody out, and I wrote to the newspaper some article about integrating this plan, and you kindly put it into your document. Just at the end, does not appear even in the index, is not addressed in your narrative, but is right there for everybody to read. And why I got involved in this project to help out since 2015, the representative of the Army Corps and the city opened the meeting here in an emotional way, and that is appreciated. And so I had an emotional reason too. When the Army Corps presented the plan to us in 2015, we saw that Moilili didn't have any flood. And the plan that followed up that presentation, to put it in a crude way, basically, was protecting Waikiki and flood Moilili. I couldn't let that go unchallenged, and so I had to speak up. Fortunately, I was not alone, because Yolani School representative very well articulated the same point of view, that the data was missing, the modeling was wrong, and the map was wrong. And the Army Corps, though, told me I was right. And so I'm glad to see that you modified the plan that you propose, because if one embraces the the solution of the wall that nobody seems to like here. Now you are protecting the Yolani school side and the Alavai school side, while before the plan was not. So I saw basically that taxpayer money was used to flood Moilili to save Waikiki. That was a major mistake. And now we cannot do additional mistake, but not listen to these people that have a strong expertise about community solution that I don't think have been really addressed properly in your environmental impact statement. And I have done environmental impact statement for the federal, the state, and even sub-consultant for the Army Corps. So I hope you do a good project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 14.
Aloha, my name is Bruce Gilmay. I want to start off with an Oli.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry, sir. So, but I heard what you said in the back. Sorry, I didn't see where you sat down. Oh, gentleman, the other one that talked about culture and the timer, unless he stepped out. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I do want to, it's not just about the respect of culture, and I heard what you're saying. We're going to regulate ourselves in this time. So, if you feel, I'm sorry for the team. I know we had this up here. I just think it's right in my heart right now that I think for the recording purposes we need to use this, but I think for anyone that wants to come and speak, and this is not for, if you spoke before and want to come back up, I'm okay with that at the end. But I want to be able, so people aren't rushing through what you have to say. Okay. Yep.
Back to you, Bruce.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to start with an Oli. An Oli is to provide everyone here. For you folks up in the panel, the major, and everyone seated here. The Oli is called Ehomai. It's a call on the ancestors or the intelligence. That comes from our ancestors to give us direction, direct spiritual direction. Eho mai, kahike mai luna mai. Ona mea nui au, ona mere. Eho mai, eho mai, eho mai, kaiki mai luna mai, ona mea nui au, ona mere. Eho mai, eho mai. I wish this upon all of you. Go deep into your heart and listen kupuna. I didn't see that yet. I'm sorry. The picture you showed of the wetlands where the water was. That's an old picture from the 1800s. The whole land was lo'i. Waikiki was a lo'i. Why do you want to take that away? Why? I don't understand. The basis of our work here. I was born and grew up in Waikiki in the 1940s. When you grew up that time, you saw the passing of the old into new migration. A lot of the old was lost. Historical Hawaii was lost. I don't think people feel that or saw these things before. If you did, I wouldn't see these pictures up there. We are working up in the watershed. You call watershed. We're at the highest part that we could go. The two people came up before me, and a bunch of other people who were up there as a place for mitigation. We take the bezier trees down, and we plant with the koa tree and other indigenous plants and trees to solidify the solidness of the ground. Bezier doesn't do that. We're moving them. That's our work. We're proposing for one person we call konehiki. I know you would know what that means. Like one person, olden times, konehiki will manage the whole Ahopo'a system, from mountain to ocean. One person. Watching the stars, knowing when the rain's going to come, when the water flows, when it's not going to flow, when tide's going to be heavy, but also not just the tides, what happens in the mountains, what happens in the lower lands, what happens in the ocean. You have to know all that to become konehiki. And I don't think people saw that yet. Army Corps came in the land we were, they wanted to put retention basins. Because there was so much comment about it, that was withdrawn. Then there was a dredging machine in Alawai. Because of silt, because all debris that comes down. The dredging machine is not there anymore. We're asking you folks to take care of the immediate cause, where we are working in what we call watershed. Come talk to us. Help us to rebuild and restore that in Upper Manoa, Upper Pololo, Upper Makiki, but all around the whole island. It's just not Waikiki. What do you folks stand for? Now you first question yourself, right? We need to have resource management. One person, the Koiniki, and one person that came up here was that person. To give you folks advice. I'm doing it the right way. You want culture. This is our culture. This is my culture. I grew up in it. My father grew me up in the water, how to fish, how to sustain ourselves. Took up in the mountains to sustain ourselves. And what it meant for water was a major, major. We live that controlled everything. But you have to know how to do it. Don't go in somebody's backyard and tell them, oh, you got to water your plants. Your plants are dying. Why are you supposed to come in my background and tell me how to live in Waikiki? How do you do that? I don't think that's pono. You know what pono means? I don't think that's right. If you can feel in your heart, come talk to us. If you don't, that's okay too. But you folks will be a living memory to us. Because it's not only the mountains. What are you going to do on the ocean side? When I was growing up, in the parking lots that's underneath, this is filled up with water in the ocean. Do you know that? What's going to happen on that side? You're going to put 6-foot walls on Waikiki side? No, because the hotel is not going to let you do that. Blangiardi is not going to do that. Mahalo. Keep it in your heart.
Mahalo. I believe we're at number 16. Number 15. Or 15. My apologies. Thanks for keeping me straight.
Good evening. My name's Alan Johnson. Most know me as HA. The images that the mayor was talking about, I came to storms and all that. I was one of those photographers capturing those images. So I worked with the mayor in another life, let's say. I'm also, I was born in Moilili in Manoa, and as a child, spending a lot of time down by the Alawai Canal, I then moved to Alaska and developed a great appreciation for recreational boating. And maybe 10, 20 years after that, I moved back here and have another sustainable idea for recreational boating. Your ideas and your designs are beautiful, I must say, but I don't know if you're just hydro engineers or your mechanical engineers. But for $1 billion, you'd think that maybe you could design something that would rise with the water level to control that. I know in the mountains and the streams, you have to go with solid walls, I understand that. But I have to remind you also that the term or the word alloy means waterway. And I think with the proper planning, you'll have a beautiful waterway. It was bad planning that actually disrupted recreational boating in the Alloy to begin with, building bridges that were too low in 1928. So with some forward thinking, I think you all could just keep that in your mind, in your hearts, planning for maybe the beautification of the Alloy. But for $1 billion, there's something mechanical might be worth looking into that might float. Today's technology, we have all types of materials that can help mitigate or be worked into your designs. So I think I finished my speech early. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you mind stating your name for the record? I think we missed it.
I think I did, Alan Johnson, but most of us know me as AJ. Okay.
All right, thank you, AJ. Thank you. All right, now I believe we're at 16. Anybody have number suite 16? No? Okay, how about 17? Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Susan Chamberlain. I've been very moved by everybody's comments tonight. And my comment that I was going to bring forward originally, I think maybe pieces this all together, where I am so disappointed, not in you, not in the engineers. You're amazing. You have talents that are beyond belief that I can, I think all of us can appreciate. But I'm always disappointed in the starting point. And I think Mr. Lynch sort of brought this to the point too. How are we starting with a problem that clearly, according to other people, is not about global warming? It's about what's happening above. And also the starting point of where are the people that are conceptual designers that maybe conceive something beyond what you can even think about? Where are the people on the beautification side that can look at what you're planning and see your wall is going to look like this wall at Ala Moana that started out, natural stone and is now painted over, white in spots from the graffiti. You're going to have a 6 to 9 foot wall of splashed white paint covering up graffiti, tents along the whole Alloy. This is not going to be beneficial for tourism. This is going to be horrible for tourism and not great for everybody that's talking about driving and the beauty of driving along the canal and experiencing that water. But also, thirdly, in the group at the very start, where is what can bring improvements to the community and to the individual? We're going to spend $1 billion. We're not going to get something that's actually improving or bringing a different natural, beautiful environmental agent experience to us. We're going to be dodging homeless, painting over graffiti. So to me, like Mr. Lynch said, the starting point, maybe we're coming at it from a different perspective. The starting point in all of government projects, in Army Corps of Engineers projects, should have people devoted to different aspects that we want within that project. And you guys worked so hard on this, and I thank you. But I think the starting point started wrong, and until we go back and incorporate all this wisdom that we have from the people that are here from the 40s and are sharing this with us, I think we're never going to get to a place where all the community, all of you, the money is in harmony. Imagine if we went to the federal government in harmony with, oh my gosh, we're gonna do this, this, and this, it's gonna benefit. Everybody should be happy. And I just don't see that this project, the way it is now, is gonna bring that. And I hope that you feel the weight on your shoulders, not for me, certainly, because there are people here that I've only been here for 20 years, and I'm only here because I want the future generations of Hawaii to have something that we're proud of, and we're like, my gosh, we did that. We rectified this problem. We added social, emotional, spiritual, natural environment to this situation and solved it. And I think it's become a little bit too engineered versus artistically, creatively, conceptually, spiritually, and emotionally put together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe we're up at 18 now. 18? Okay, and it's okay if you want to pass. We can move on to 19. Would whoever has 19 like to speak? No?
I think you skipped 17.
Oh, did I? Did I miss 17?
I was 17.
Okay. Thank you for keeping me honest, though. I appreciate it. Okay, so if we don't have anyone for 18 or 19, is there anyone who has number 20 that would like to speak? Yes, please come. Thank you.
Aloha mai kākou. Aloha. O wau no ke haulani lam. Took my first breath of life in the ahupua'a that we were speaking of. I was educated there for 13 years. My ancestors are buried in the uplands. And I have the great, great privilege to work with Uncle Bruce, Matt, Sienna, University of Hawaii students, hundreds of people who come from all over the world to restore the native forest. I support everything that is being said insofar as the heart, like Uncle said, of the community. I'd like to ask us to please remember that in November 2022, President Biden released a memorandum encouraging all agencies to collaborate with Native people when addressing events such as this, and to treat Native wisdom equally as we treat Western science. I can get you the link to that if you don't have that information. Why is this important? Because the water that flows from Waiakeakua, water of the gods, was gifted to us in our stories by the gods Kane and Kanaloa. Kane of the fresh water, Kanaloa of the sea. They were thirsty as they were walking along the ridgelines, and Kane stuck his staff into the water, and out came the fresh water that flowed down through the streams, through the Lo'ikalo, into the Loko'i'a, into the ocean where the native limu could grow and the native fish. The great difficulty with this conversation is that whole thousands of years of history is absent in this plan. For no fault of your own, because you're being asked to create a remedy to a solution that is only 100 years old, to a problem that was started only 100 years ago. But what about the ancient wisdom? Is it possible, as Matt said, for us to work together in harmony to restore it from the source? And we say it is. The energy that brought the albizia tree to Manoa was the energy of greed. The energy that is behind this flood is the energy of fear. What we need is the energy of aloha, that we can all come together and find the remedy that is not only economically sound, that saves lives, that welcomes visitors to Hawaii Nei who want to engage in malama aina, aloha aina, which is what we are talking about in our visitors system today. So I thank you so much for this opportunity. I thank you for trying to fix this under very difficult circumstances, almost maybe impossible paradigm. And please feel free to contact us. I know that there are many here equally able to do so. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, I believe we're at 21. Thank you.
Aloha. My name is Jeff Gear. I'm representing the Waikiki Beach Boys Canoe Club. I'm one old man among 100 in the club, and there are 9 clubs like us who put boats in the water every day on the Alawai Canal. I don't know about the upshot, I don't know the solutions, but I know that if I look at the little diagram you have over here, you've got 4 areas designated, which are nowhere near one little door into the Alawai for 7, 8, 10 canoes that we have in a space that's half the size of that stage. And there are designated spots for each of those 9 clubs, and there are 3 in just my little group by the Alawai. You really ought to think about some wide areas, and I don't know what you're thinking, but this isn't doing it. Not one little door that can be opened and closed when you have a 2% flood. You need a lot of doors, and you need to teach the people who use the Alawai how to open them and shut them so that you don't have to monitor them. That's part of using the people. Okay, that's my time.
Mahalo. Number 22.
Excuse me, aloha. My name is Ray Tabata. I'm a Manoa resident. I understand that there is no detention basin in the preferred alternative, and if that's true, I am concerned about the maintenance of existing drainage systems in my neighborhood. I live near the park, the regional park. And I've lived there almost 40 years now, and I have not noticed any maintenance type project within the park because there's a system of swales and drains. And over the years, I've been noticing that the swales are filling up. It's not being maintained in terms of depth and capacity. There's one particular swale that runs on the Makai side and runs straight into the stream. It's filled with vegetation and trees on the end, so water doesn't really drain properly, I think, into the stream. And recently I noticed that there's a concrete wall that's part of the culvert. I noticed there's a missing piece, because it looks like there's the end of a section and there's a missing piece, because you can kind of see a joint. So I'm wondering what's been going on with the park in terms of maintaining the drains and swales and berms within the park, and how that affects drainage of Manoa Stream, going downstream. I live near the park, so we experienced the October 2004 flood. We had water about this deep going through our garage. Fortunately, not much happened, except because our house is elevated. We meet the floodplain requirements. But I know other people in my neighborhood who were built before, they probably suffered a lot of flood damage. We had a lot of mud to clean up, but other than that, we're okay. So I do have concerns about how the Manoa Park people are maintaining their own drainage system, and I don't know who's monitoring it. I don't know what the original plans were and how they comply now. So that's one of my concerns. The continuing maintenance is really lacking, I think, and maintaining the capacity. So I'd like to see, as part of this whole plan, some system of monitoring existing drainage systems, assuming that they meet some kind of standard, and making sure that they're operating properly. Because if they're not operating properly, I can see there would be implications downstream also. And this also ties into maintaining the drainage systems outside the park. I see a lot of sediment buildup and vegetation building up on the banks, and this has come up in neighborhood discussions. So I think this is something that needs to be looked at in terms of overall system management. I have one quick comment to make about the golf course plan. We had a lot of mud in the October 2004 flood. Last December, there was some flooding about this deep, and we left a lot of silt, this fine mud. If the golf course floods, like it may function as a basin, who's going to clean up the mess? Because that mud is really hard to get rid of. So I don't know who's going to go in and clean up all the mud in a golf course. So good luck with that one. Thank you.
Mahalo, Ray. Okay, I think we're up to 22 or 23. Okay, please come forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Giovannini. I'm a coach at the Waikiki Beach Boys Canoe Club. Like Jeff mentioned, we'd just like some more information on how logistically it's going to work with the canoe clubs. I think in the study it says the launch where we are is referred to as the Kamehameha launch, and there's, I think, at least 6 clubs that use that area, and how that's going to work with putting in 24 canoes. Everybody practices anywhere from 5:30 to 6. So how does that work? How big is that area going to be? And there's some other launches too, where multiple clubs use that same area. There's also high schools, elementary school kids paddling before we do, and there's just a lot of canoes coming in and out of the water at that same time. So any more information that could be provided regarding that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, commenter 23 or 4? 24. And it's okay if you want to pass, so don't worry. If I call your number and you don't want to step up, that's fine. How about 25? Oh, okay. 26? Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kathleen Doring, and I live in the Waikiki area. And I had 4 things that I wanted to present. The first is, it was published in the paper on November the 26th. Very, very informative article. And it stated in the summary that there were going to be 3 plans that it would narrow down into, one of which is the potential action plan focused on water storage with detention basins to hold the stormwater. We haven't really heard very much about that. The other was aimed at primarily at water conveyance, featuring a variety of channels and flood walls. And the third is the hybrid presentation, which you're giving us tonight. Many of us are definitely not excited about the walls. We use the Alawai area to walk. We use it for recreation. We use it for biking. So the wall structure is going to be a problem. It's a visual barrier for many people. It's not going to improve the commerce or the business in Waikiki, especially if it becomes a graffiti wall. It could become a graffiti wall like we have in Berlin, where they invited artists to come from around the world to repaint and remodify the wall that was there when the Nazis built the wall, when it was built during the war. So maybe if we consider it as an artistic adventure, that might be a feature that would be possibly appealing. The other point of reference is the albizzi trees. The albizzi trees were planted because Manoa was stripped. If you look at some of the older pictures in the 30s, you'll see the streetcars going up and down around the mountainsides. There's no trees. The albizzi trees were brought here. They were fast growing. They're from Africa. They tolerate this environment. We have a problem. We need to remove the trees. We need to maintain our stream beds that we already have. Point number 3. Many of the streams, 3 in particular, drained naturally into Waikiki. We have types of fish that have to reach the ocean as part of their spawning before they come back into the fresh water. The opihi is one of those examples. So these streams were already naturally inhabited by many of the native species in this area. So I think the retention basins is probably one of the best options. We have lots of land around in the Kaimuki area, around the high school there, a retention basin. You've got the Alawai Golf Course. We have Kapiolani Park. There was a presentation made in 2021 about using retention basins. There's been discussion tonight about saving the water because we have aquifers. That's our main source of water. If we can save some of this rainwater, that would be wonderful for the Board of Water Supply. And many of the land we're talking about is under the management of the DLNR, correct? Has anybody approached DLNR about the use of this land and putting barriers up there? That's another problem, the ownership of the land and taking land by eminent domain. As one member mentioned here tonight, he has a stream, and his stream is in the back of his home in Manoa, and he owns land on both sides. So how are you going to build a fence on both sides of that? So that's a problem for us to consider. Okay, that's kind of in summary of the 4 points that I wanted to bring up. The final one is the canoes, and every day I watch the canoe paddlers going in and out, because I live in Waikiki, and that is a barrier, or it will be a big barrier for all of these canoe paddlers to use the services that we have. And when the floodwaters and the ocean water comes up, every day when I walk along the Waikiki Canal, you'll hear the water coming in now through the drainage systems and flooding into the street. And this is just during high tide, in normal high tides. Thank you very much.
Mahalo.
I did just want to make one clarifying comment about what was presented in the paper. So the paper, I think, was just summarizing the types of plans we were looking at. So I would recommend, if you have time, going to the study website and looking at the presentations from December of last year and April of this year, and it will talk about those other plans and what was involved in those plans and why they were screened out. So I just, the tentatively selected plan is what was presented tonight. Those other plans were just things that we looked at. So please go back and look at it as you can for clarification on those.
Thank you. Okay. Are you number 27? No. Or no? Did you want to ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Sure. Or yeah, you can go.
You have our email addresses when we signed in. I wonder if you could email us any information in the future about meetings and plans, etc. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Number 27? Yes. Thank you.
I'm the only guy who came up the front. I don't know why. I must be different. My name is Elton Fukumoto. I'm on the Manoa Neighborhood Board. I wrote 3 of the resolutions that our board ended up passing, but tonight I'm speaking in my personal capacity. I'd like to talk about 2 of the features that are in my district. One is the flood wall at the confluence of the Manoa and Palolo streams. I think the problem with that one is there's no corresponding flood wall on the Makai side, and so that means that the water will go that way and flood that area. That could be a problem. Also, with respect to the subdivision that is being protected, I think it behooves the Army Corps to at least notify those people. I don't see too many of them here. Notify them that the flood wall is being considered so that they can comment on this particular feature. Number 2, the big feature in Manoa is the flood wall at the Woodlawn Bridge. It seems to me very large. And so I suggest as an alternative, once again, what my co-Manoa residents, Scott Snyder and Ray Tabata, have already suggested, which is that the problem could be tackled by getting rid of the albizia trees and channelizing, doing proper maintenance of the channel under the Woodlawn Bridge. I think that would take care of most of the problem. My final point is that I think there's a disparity between the major flood events that take place in Manoa and the overtopping of the Alawai. So I believe perhaps it's Cindy who mentioned that the overtopping of the Alawai into Waikiki occurred in 1967, 1969, and at the time of Hurricane Iniki. And that does not match up too well with the major flooding situations in Manoa, which took place in 2004 and 2006. Finally, I really have a problem with the Hurricane Iniki example. So the whole point of this particular project is to protect Waikiki. I was here during Hurricane Iniki. I don't remember flooding in Waikiki. I don't remember flooding in Manoa. And that's number one. Number two, as we all know, Hurricane Iniki, which was intense but small, went to Kauai, not Oahu. And number three, I looked at the NOAA report on Hurricane Iniki. It doesn't mention any substantial flooding in Waikiki. So I ask you to justify that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 28.
Aloha all. Thank you all for coming and sharing our concerns as a community. I want to really reach out and show my respect to the wonderful kapunas that showed up, that share the importance about the indigenous Hawaiian knowledge. That is pretty much the base of where you should start this whole thing. So, and the trees and all the other issues. I'm here representing a few communities. One is the Polynesian Voyaging Society. I was blessed by going on the Malama Honua voyage around the world in the Hokulea. And our mission was to go to all these different communities that are reaching out to take care of their aina, taking care of their land. And from that, I learned a lot, and I saw that one of the main things that most of these communities, even third world countries, are doing is they're restoring. It's restoration and revitalization. It's not cement. They're ripping out cement. And they're doing it all over our country too. So it's important, thank you. It's important that we just look to the future here. There are other methods to deal with this. But I would really recommend going to a bermed. I'm sure you've heard all the discontent about the walls, right? And there are a lot of issues with that. The berms would be much better, and a number of reasons. One, if there happens to be, which climate change and the sea rises. If you had a berm on the Alawai side, our visitors, which are our economic engine, would be able to go to this beautiful place and look up into the mountains, see people paddling up and down the Alawai, see kids fishing and swimming, and you'd still have an economic engine while the beach is underwater. So that's something to consider seriously, okay? Another thing, I was very fortunate, 1998, when this actually all started, because they didn't dredge the Alawai. The sediment buildup is a huge problem. So there needs to be a constant flow of water down the Alawai, consistent, not just a big flood. And to do that, I've been to Lake Tahoe, where they have these harbors, these boat harbors, where they actually have bubbling water. So they have this aerated underneath where there's a water flow, and it actually takes the sediment out on a steady fashion. So it doesn't just all at once dump on the reef and kill the reef. It's just this constant flow, and the reef can actually handle that. So I'm concerned as a surfer also that the reefs don't die. I go fishing out there all the time. And third, another thing is that, excuse me, a little emotional. I actually, paddle there. I paddled since I was 10 years old. I'm 60 now, so do the math. So I've won a couple Molokais training there. I've had many Olympic friends train there. It's a beautiful asset for sports events to happen. If the water was clean and there were sporting events there, you'd attract more people. So I've been doing this for years, at least 10 years, going to all the hotels, talking to all of those guys. They had us all have nice banquets and everything. I'm really concerned about them. I'm concerned about the golf course. I'm concerned about the schools. The Corps engineers have a huge job ahead of them. They're going to be the main guys handling this. So you got to reach out to the community, make sure it happens right. But you guys are in charge of this for sure. So you just want to do it right. You know, you don't want to come back and dig all that stuff out and do it again, right? Down the road. So take a good look at all the comments here, you know, take in all the different aspects and you know, respect some of the, I've done this for years, you know, long time. And I've traveled the world looking for solutions, you know, and this one that I hear at the wall is not going to quite fit the community here. So totally reconsider that. The other thing is obviously the invasiveness of all the foliage that overgrows that. Of course, we would love to see lilies back there, and I have in my plan a way that you can restore a portion of the bank to be a lily for children to interact with their cultural heritage. So please take a close look at my proposal and consider all these different things, because to all of us, this is really, really dear to the heart, okay? And I have kids, so I want my kids to grow up with what I had, you know? I don't want them spray painting walls. I don't want them jumping off cement walls. I want them running down and catching fish and swimming in the Alawai and paddling and doing all the things that we're blessed to do. So with that, thank you very much. And anyone wants a copy? Anyone wants a copy of my beautiful report? Please come and see me. I'll be happy to give you one. And I have given you it.
Mahalo. Okay, number 29. Thank you.
Hi, aloha. My name's Winston Welch. I'm Executive Director of the Outdoor Circle, and I've also served on Diamond Head Kapahulu St. Louis Heights Neighborhood Board for many years, and I recognize most of you up here, but especially Eric. Welcome to Hawaii. Tyson didn't make it tonight, I guess. Yeah, so you guys have heard some really wonderful speakers tonight speaking from their heart about many things that you might have heard from before, but and you have, you know, huge thanks from us, because we know that you're trying to do the right thing, and I think you've heard from the community that we still have work to do in this. This is not a one and done, and it's feeling really like that right now. It's feeling like a fait accompli, as it always has. And if you remember back in the day when Protect Our Alawai Watersheds and Sydney Lynch came up here and had to speed read, maybe she can read at a slower pace of the important things she was saying, we got together a group of caring, committed folks, and they represent people that take care of the land and the sea, that are invested in this watershed and community. And we came together just as a community, and I think Carol was there, and it was about, well, it was before the pandemic, so, but the last iteration of this project failed because it wasn't listening to the community. Since that time, you've eliminated many of the dams there, and in fact, it was based on faulty information from what we understood. So that didn't engender a great sense of confidence in things, but you know, other folks have mentioned the lack of public voice or participation or communication issues in here, and you know, significantly inflated cost, lack of ecosystem, restoration benefits, measures, maintenance issues. Go up to the Woodlawn Bridge right now and look down and see how it's maintained right now. See the trees growing in it, unless it was just cleaned today. There's been a lot of eliminated options that don't really make sense for just non-engineers, that just would seem to be common sense. Why were those eliminated? If the mayor says that, you know, money is not the primary object here, and it shouldn't be, we want to get this done right. You know, we have halal issues. We have all sorts of issues that we have asked and asked and asked, but we don't feel are really getting answered, whether that's fair or not. That's how it feels to us. You know, we all want this project to work. We want our neighborhoods protected. But if this is our final chance and we don't get this right and we can't have our questions answered, it feels like it's just not being done right. And I think that you've had other folks speak to that better than I can. one thing, why was this report released on Thanksgiving Day? That in the Christmas season, when everybody knows in Hawaii, like, you just don't do stuff. Like, so many neighborhood boards are canceled right now in December. There's 7 neighborhood boards affected by this project. We have a wonderful system here, for those of you not from Hawaii, that allows us to listen to stuff on very specific locations. We have asked repeatedly for the Corps to come every month, every 3 months, anything, and tell us what is going on, where are we, give us updates. It hasn't happened. Why hasn't the city come in this? You cannot over communicate this stuff, and it's basic. You guys might be brilliant engineers, but we need to hear this. We need to understand. We need to buy into it. We need to invest into it. You need to understand what we're saying. We understand what you're saying. It's a dialogue. In any event, we would really appreciate the Corps coming, and I think this is absolutely not the right time to put this thing in its final state. You have a lot of work to do here from just what you've heard tonight, and hopefully you will come back to the neighborhood boards. Again, we want to trust and have this process like we're being heard here. 16 resolutions from the 7 neighborhood boards said something against this project between 2018 and 2020. That's people right in all these neighborhoods had something to say about this. That hasn't been addressed. And that should be addressed. I had just a couple specific questions based on this. And, the average person, since this has been released, doesn't really have a lot of time to go through 3,700-page report and find out what the changes were from the last one. And asking folks to do that and become aware of this, and even the meeting tonight, and then submit a comment in any logical fashion before we can understand what our questions are, doesn't do the good work that you've done justice, because we can't understand what it is. But a couple questions. What happened to the SWIFT tunnels that would move this water efficiently from higher up in the valleys? Why were the pumps and gate system eliminated? That seems like it would deal with storm surge and king tides and other things as well. How do we ensure that these drains would be capped? This is a lot of different drains going everywhere. What if a couple of them get left open somehow? How does that work when the neighborhood gets flooded? Why can we not include Moiliili, Makiki, and the Ke'emoku area in this plan? That would be my question. Like, why does Waikiki get it, but the other neighborhoods don't? And then, the walls. These have, around the Alawai, these have always been the most deeply unpopular part of this plan, and the current version has no landscaping, no trees, no views, no parking. Maybe we can do better with that after you, go back and listen to all these comments. And I just say, please take these comments to heart. I know you're good people doing good work, and we appreciate that work that you've been doing. And this is a community that cares. It's wonderful to have this showing up of people. As Matt said tonight, we can do better, we must do better. We can, but we have to do it together. So let us help you. And we're more than willing and wanting to do so. So thank you very much for your time tonight and listening.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe that was 29. So does anyone have 30? Okay, no 30? 31, you're the winner. Come on down. You got my Price is Right joke. You're my favorite.
But I'm a homeowner on Koali Road, and I had no indication that this was going on. I mean, no one ever sent us any letters, no one came by to the homeowners. There must be at least 1,000 people who live on Koali Road. And it's a narrow two-way street ending in Kaniwai Park. But I've only lived there maybe 2 years, but I'm shocked by this, the way you intend to alter Koali Road. We had no idea. And I mean, and part of the part that I saw where you said that we need to elevate the homes, I assume that refers to Koali Road. I mean, who would finance that? That we're going to be, you know, with these, and right now it's a little rural community with a natural stream running, Manoa Stream runs right alongside the road, and all of our homes are located there. I mean, so do we want to have a 6-foot floodgate right there? I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, I'm just totally in shock. I was the only one that came to this meeting, you know, from my neighborhood. It's Christmas, people are busy, you know. It's not an appropriate time to be making life-altering changes like this. And you know, where you're intending to put the flood wall up into Kaniwai Park is going right up to the Hawaiian Studies building. It's going to end right at the taro patch there. That's a very historic, cultural, spiritual area. I walk up to that park every day and I can feel the energy. I don't want our park changed. It's really a special rural area in the middle of Honolulu. I'm just horrified who came up with this plan. So that's all I have to say. I'm in shock. Thank you. Thank you. Power to the people.
Mahalo, thank you. 31? You were 31, so 32. Oh, okay, Laura, so let's hear. Cindy, in the back, did we give anybody? Do we have another higher number? Yeah. Yes, please join us. Thank you. And can you tell me what number you have? Are you 32? Okay, 32. Great, thank you.
Yeah. Aloha o Kahealani Kiahi, no Kalavihine Mayo. I'm Kahealani Kiahi. I am from the Hawaiian homestead of Kalavihine that is connected with Papakolea and Aniku or Kewalo. I had so many mana'o or thoughts to say after each speaker. There's so many speakers, it was all in my head. So mahalo for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I'm going to keep it short. I am also with a Native Hawaiian organization, Hui Maka'inana o Kalavihine. We are the eyes of the land, so that is why I'm here. We're keeping an eye out for our aina. We are the only stream in the 3 ahupua'as of Makiki, Palolo, and Manoa to have a detention basin. So we as a people, as a Kanaka, we spoke to our aina and it answered us. So the detention basin that we had, the aina listened, it took it out itself. So we no longer have a detention basin. The trees grew up, things happen, we have an ahu there that we pull it to, and it is gone. So we no longer have a detention basin, so mahalo kia koa for that. So of course we're not for the detention basins in our kahavai at all. I took a few notes. I think the pilikia, the greatest pilikia for this section or segment anyway, is the creation of the alawai itself that destroyed our ahupua'a, period, and caused so much pilikia and problems. All the problems we're talking about now, most of it is why? Because of pilikia, the alawai itself. And the long history of the improper land management practices, long history of unsustainable resource management, to the $1 million, slap in the face to many of us Kanaka who have moved out of Hawaii because we no longer can afford to live here because of loss of so much. Most of the Kanaka live on the continent, other places in the world than Hawaii itself. We are the endangered species, the people the kanaka. The $1 billion slap in the face to the ohana of Lahaina who need our help right now. And I'm sitting here talking about $1 billion for what flood? Because where our detention basin was, we don't even have flowing water. In Waikiki Valley, we malama lo'i, my family and I. The problem is we don't have water. So we're gonna have to switch to another kahawai. We're in Moleka, we have to switch to Kanealole because the water runs better, but that water is running low as well. So our aquifers. The $1 billion, stream maintenance, like how many people stated. That is the pilikia right now, is the stream maintenance. The invasives, the debris, the albesias, the $1 billion. Ahupua'a restoration. I do not support this project currently. No walls, even at bridge, no acquisition or relocation of residents, no detention basins in our kahawai, in our streams. You know, $1 billion again. When my daughter was little, my daughter's sitting right there, and she testified also. She's 20 years old now. She testified, I think, when she was in 10th grade, right at the building over there, against this project with her school, Halau Kumana. So I represent many people from our Ahupua'a, not just Makiki, but Manoa and Palolo, where I work, at a Hawaiian immersion school. When she was little, I would give her money. Here's $20, you go buy what you want. She really only wanted one thing. Because I gave her $20, she wanted to use all the money, even if she doesn't need whatever else, 5 other things she wanted. That's what I see right now. You get $1 billion, just drop it down, whatever we want to build, just build it. That wall is, expensive. That's how I feel. But the $1 billion, Lahaina. What about the aquifers? And Oahu aquifers, keeping our water clean. What about the kia'i, the protectors of our waters? What about that? This, no, is heva, that we're sitting here talking about this, when we should be talking about our people of Lahaina and our Oahu aquifers that has been poisoned. Ola ika vai.
Thank you. 33.
Aloha. Sorry, guys. I think I'm the last one. My name's Olivia Longcarrick, and I'm with the Blue Alloy Foundation. I also work for KITV4. One main thing I want to bring up is that I feel like the community was very underinformed about this. It shouldn't take a nonprofit organization to inform the community about even just this hearing today. So yeah, I think that was a huge issue. And then I also just feel like this entire plan is like putting a Band-Aid on an infecting, oozing wound. I don't feel like this is addressing one of the bigger issues, which is also pollution. When you walk by the Alawai, you can't even stand the smell. I mean, let's not forget the guy who passed away years ago because he fell into the water and, I mean, succumbed to the infection from it. And I just don't think that this plan is going to be addressing that issue at all. It's more so like sweeping it under the rug. So, yeah. That, and I just think that adding an additional gate and the pumps, we could get the Alawai to a point where it's blue again and that it's swimmable. You know, there's beautification, that people can use it for, you know, swimming, fishing, anything. I think it's possible for $1 billion. Thank you.
All right, I think we're at 34.
Hi, Kathleen Doring. I would like to give a correction on the fish, and it's the o'opu, and I used an incorrect actually another type of sea sea creature. So yes, and we also have 4 native goby fish that also are part of our streams, the nopili. So these are endemic to and indigenous to Hawaii, and they are affected by things that you are proposing in this plan. Thank you very much.
Mahalo. Okay, did we have anyone with a number higher than 33? Okay, seeing none, just the deepest, sincerest mahalo and happy holidays. Oh, well, how are we doing on time? We still have 30 minutes, so yes, if you want to take another number, please. Cindy, I think we're going to give out the next number, if you can just set it aside. I think we're at 34.
Okay, thank you. This is Laura Ruby again. A few comments that I couldn't make in the short period of time. First of all, how nice to hear the energy of aloha and the quality of life. Those are all the things that we really want to have for us that live here. Please, please remember, that's the way you should look at it. When I taught my students at UH in sculpture, large public sculpture, I always ask, what is the site like? What does the site bring to it? What is the quality, the history, the use of the site? And what is the human scale that is in relation to it? And these are things that people without any training or any background can understand. And I think if those things would be presented to them, I think they would be quite a bit alarmed at what the overpowering concrete fortification is. The other thing is the concern to you folks, everybody, people who are city, county, state, federal employees. Where are your ethical concerns? When you see all of the people here in the community not wanting to have this particular plan, how do you feel personally? You may think that you've put in all your heart to something like this, but when you find out that the community is not supporting something like this, the starting place would have been to have the community first and to have continual community feedback, and we have not seen that at all. And then finally, I would just say that if people know across from the convention center, either side, there are lovely walls that are about this high, about 2 feet high, that have arches in it, made from native stone. That is basaltic blue stone. It's now oxidized a bit. Those are beautiful arches that people can sit on if they want. What is wrong with putting that 2 feet? If you go only to 30 inches, you don't have to get permits, to build walls. That would be something without adding this whole extra layer around the canal or the things that are simply nice walls that go up 3 feet. When the few times that the water went over on the Mauka side, I watched it go over. It goes over and it dissipates. The ducks have a good time there for a while, but then the water goes away. So containing things like that will only make jam-ups in all kinds of other areas where the flood water would naturally dissipate. So I would like you to think, and I would just say one more thing, no faux rock walls, please. Let's do our native stones the favor. Think of all the quarrymen that cut the stone. Think of all the masons that put that wonderful stone facades in on either side, on maybe the Mackay side of the canal. And think about this, and I would just say one side, with my volunteers at the Mo'ili Japanese Cemetery, volunteers, we built 556 feet of wall. Okay? We did it as volunteers. What did that cost? The cost of the stones. Okay? Think about how those things, we can come together if we have something that the community really wants, and we can do it. We don't have to give it off to developers who take a big cut in their, they get a big paycheck anyway. So please consider the flood walls are not the answer. There's other kinds of things. Building something up this high is all that's going to be needed. My almost 50 years now of watching the canal and the streams, it does not top over that. And so please consider it. Community, come together with the spirit of aloha. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, because of my rushed presentation, I wanted to clarify that my remarks about the non-communication from the Army Corps is not these people in the front of the room here. They were really great on all of the 2 years of process. Kelly and Eric are on the mainland, and we talked a lot with them. Cindy's been with the project for a long time, and Haku replaced Alex Koslov, and then before that, Robert Croning. Anyway, I think that the non-communication and all of the stonewalling is done by the main offices in Seattle and New Orleans, and that the people before us here have really tried to work with us. And I want to say I appreciate that, but because of that time constraint, I was trying to get all my comments in. But I wanted to apologize if I offended any of you. Thank you.
Dave, I apologize that this lady here had stood up first. Can we go to her and then to you? Would that be okay? Okay.
Aloha, my name is Dominique Mayogir. I am a paddler, but it's not what I want to talk about. I just want to reiterate to please give us more time. Presenting a report on Thanksgiving, giving us until 8th of January to put comments. It's not fair for the community. It's not the right time. And I also heard of a price increase. It's not even started. Now, I have bad memories of a word started with R and finishing with L, 4 letters. And we've been through that with price increase and paying billions of dollars. And it's really wasn't even finished. So I think the community needs a lot of time to think about spending $1 billion. We are paying a lot of taxes already. And like this lady said, Lahaina, we need to help our people before we spend $1 billion. And who knows, the price might increase more. So let's think about it thoroughly, because this is not going to happen with, 3 weeks of comments during the holidays? It's not serious, right? I just want to say we can't do it. We can't do it as a community. And we've been there, with other projects. I think I'm a little bit, doubtful that it's going to happen, and it's not fair. It's not fair. So Merry Christmas.
Aloha. Is it? Yeah, my name is Dave Otase again, and in the 2015 draft report, I submitted over 100 pages of public comment. My property in Palolo was targeted for detention basin, and personally, I fought hard. But I really looked at the project and the engineering of it, because I'm a civil engineer, I'm a problem solver, and I said, there got to be a better solution. There got to be a better alternative. So I submitted a lot of information, a lot of comments, and the Army Corps basically canceled every one of them out with one-liner sentences. Can you imagine that the city council, PIG, spent $700,000, hired Oceanet, who did the original hydrology for this project, and they canceled their alternative, which was community generated, in 2 paragraphs, right? And if they can do that to an engineered design that had a price estimate from a legitimate contractor with 2 paragraphs, we can submit all the comments in the world, and they're going to answer it in the final EIS with one-liners. They're doing the exact same mistake that they did in the 2015 draft EIS and in the 2017 final EIS, which they thought was a done deal because Congress had funded. Okay? But the community objected. The first meeting that Jeff Herzog did on 1 week notice in Manoa Valley, there was over 400 community residents came out to object to the project and to learn more about the project. Okay. After that, the Army Corps said, we're never going to do this again, because that became it was like cheerleader event. I mean, it was a rally against the project. So what did they do?
They broke it up into little divisions, canoe paddlers, community gardens, Manoa businesses, and they had smaller meetings. They didn't want to do the big event anymore. But to their credit, Jeff Herzog and Cindy, they went to every neighborhood board maybe 2 times and kept on updating them. They actually had our trust. They developed it. And we thought they were going to come out with a better project that would involve us, something that would make us happy, something that we could get behind the project and help them push it through in record time. But guess what? 5 years goes by and there's nothing. They come up with something that we don't want, that actually won't work because it's not protected from sea level rise, tide surges, and high tides. You know, but Oceanet came out with an idea, a concept, which can actually be expanded upon. We can have, they just put a straight tunnel, but we can branch off of it. We can have multiple inlets. Okay, we can attach it to a pump on the bottom, you know, and it can go to all different, we can have more than 1 tunnel, more than 2 tunnels, more than 3 tunnels. Okay, and if cost is not the limiting factor, we need to do something that satisfies the community, that addresses what everybody wants, right? And at the same time, you know, why does it have to be one or the other? Okay, and if you looked at that, now it's $1 billion for the 50-year storm. Okay, and if you looked at that flood map that they put up there, Makiki, Mo'ilili, they all flood. It's all covered with blue. And Waikiki is no blue at all. But in fact, Waikiki will flood. You know why? Because they put up a wall, and for 6 hours, the duration of the storm, they're going to shut off, and cap off all the storm drains. So if Waikiki gets 10 inches of rain from the 50-year storm, guess what? It has nowhere to go. It's going to flood. Okay, Iolani will flood. Kaimaki High School will flood. Okay, and last time, Iolani wasn't informed. Hokulani wasn't informed. Okay, and you put that Koali Road wall. Why? The 100-year storm only showed $3 million of flood damage to that area from the Manoa Stream and Palolo Stream. There's a drainage culvert at the bottom of Kaniwai Park that dumps all the water from the park into the stream, and you're going to cap it off. So the whole park is, all the water that the park collects is going to flood Hokulani School, and it's going to flood all the residents in the Koali Road subdivision. Okay? Then the other thing is you put the wall only on one side. Well, guess what? The old Wailai Road is the same elevation as the Koali Road, right? So up until the public storage is level. And if you don't put up a 6-foot wall on that side, the water's just going to go all the way down. It's going to flood that whole area. And in fact, you do have a model that shows that area floods. Okay, so to me, again, that's missing engineering, more cost, right? You have a flood wall that will never move, never ever tip over because you got a 50-foot micro piles. But underneath the wall is coral. In front of the wall is the original Alawai historic wall, which is porous. So when you go above ground, it's going to push the water through. And then you're going to have to address that and put sheet piling to prevent that from happening, which is, again, going to cost more money. This wall with micropiles is 3-4 times more expensive than the wall you had designed for the 2015-2017 EIS. Okay, and we said it wasn't going to work. Okay, and that wall also had flood pumps, right, to empty out Kapahulu, Diamond Head. You wanted a flood pump at the bottom of University of Hawaii University Avenue in front of Marco Polo. Okay, you had a Hostins detention basin. You eliminated all of it. Okay, you eliminated the EDR, corrected it, and put a bypass in Makiki through the Alawai Promenade. Okay, and guess what? That bypass, you say we don't need it. You're going to have walls that go up there, but you said nope. We're just going to deal with the induced flooding. Okay, and you eliminated anything under 6 inches. You said we're not going to count as induced flooding, and we're not going to address it. Well, that's thousands of residents that you need to notify, because if my house floods 6 inches, I'm impacted. I'm a stakeholder. Every homeowner along your wall is a stakeholder. The ones that you say we might have to acquire, right? Or condemn, eminent domain. Okay? They're key stakeholders. In 2012, when you rescoped this project, they had a public engagement plan. They didn't follow it. If they followed it, I would have been brought into the conversation in 2012. Okay? And that plan says they're going to meet with the key stakeholders. We're going to sit down at the table, and it's a face-to-face tossing ideas back and forth. Okay? This project is a one-way street, the way I see it, and you're repeating all the same mistakes. And because of that, for me, I'm going to fight it. I want to kill this project. But I really want something that would work for our community, and I think Oceanit has the right concept that can be expanded upon. I think the floodgate and flood pumps, which your peer engineering review said would work, that you just all of a sudden now it doesn't work, or it's too expensive. And anybody can take a concept and use it wrong to disqualify it. Okay, and put in a 20,000 CFS pump, the way you priced it out, $2 billion or whatever, is the wrong application. A 4,000 CFS pump on the golf course with a tunnel to the harbor can empty the canal 15 feet deep in 3 hours. And it can run the whole duration of the storm, removing 4,000 CFS out of the equation. You add that in addition to the subterranean swift tunnels, another 6,000. If we had a third tunnel, another 3,000. You know, using the golf course for detention and the canal itself, by lowering it as a detention basin, we can absorb the peak flow without having walls. You know, and we would have plenty of money left over to the ecosystem restoration. That's just how I feel. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. How are we doing on time, Eric?
8:21.
It's 8:21. Okay, so we have 9 minutes left.
Thank you. I think Uncle and I would like to offer some comments just to help close out the night. And Lieutenant Major, I'd really like to acknowledge your pivot there, and thank you for adjusting the process to allow for our voices to be heard. And also thank you, ma'am, for graciously supporting that as well. So, where's my glasses? Dave, you said something, it feels like this is being railroaded, and I can certainly empathize with that feeling. And I said earlier in my comments that we've been asking you folks the wrong set of questions, and not just us. Our elected officials are asking these questions. So for those of us in the room, I think the critical leverage point that we have here is our elected officials. And I really want to mahalo Senator Carol Fukunaga for taking the time to be here tonight to hear all of this. What I would like to leave you folks with is just a couple questions. What if we asked you? What if we asked ourselves? What if we asked our elected officials and our business leaders a question that could absolutely unleash our collective imagination to envision futures for Waikiki that are much brighter than building walls around it to exclude precious waters from the mountain which feed the entire watershed? What if we asked ourselves more pragmatic questions, for crying out loud? For example, what if we devoted just 1% of the proposed $1 billion plus budget to planting trees that will not fall? What flood risks could be mitigated by investing just 10% of the proposed $1 billion price tag into other nature-based solutions instead of building yet more man-made hardscapes, which are a significant driver upstream to the problem that you've been asked to address? The Alawai Canal itself was built to drain the coastal wetlands that used to be Waikiki. Historical accounts describe Waikiki as a Garden of Eden, a lush paradise of edible gardens that were cultivated amongst a complex network of fish ponds, of marshlands, of loko'ia that Sister here described. And all of this helped, not in isolation. It was connected to the Wauakua, the sacred uplands that you needed to ask permission to enter. Such was your reverence for it. Because ancestrally, it was understood that they were literally the guardians of the life support systems. The Wauakua, the sacred upland forests, protected the water that sustained life. Yeah? What if we asked ourselves to reimagine Waikiki as the pristine wetland paradise that it was in our not too distant past? What solutions become available when we ask ourselves to reimagine Waikiki as a wetland? There are others that have done this. Interface is one of the largest companies. They supply commercial flooring. This is a company that achieved net zero years ago. This is a company that has not carbon neutral products, but carpet which actually draws carbon out of the atmosphere. That is the potential that we have to unleash here. We can be the examples of a new paradigm. And I say new, not N-E-W, K-N-E-W, looking back to look forward. What might be possible if we reimagine this? And to close out my comments before inviting Uncle Bruce up to close us out for the evening, I'm going to share something that Auntie wrote in the written comments that we're preparing to submit also. She says, the Manoa watershed became ground zero for Albizia in support of a single industry, Big Sugar. The Alawai Canal displaced the ingenuity of Waikiki's native culture to support yet another industry, tourism. Ironically, the very same industry that is now calling for regenerative change and Ma'alama'aina. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us tonight. Really mahalo all of your efforts, and we know, we feel it in our hearts, we know it in our na'au that we can and we must do better, and we invite you to join us. Uncle Bruce?
Mahalo.
Introduce you. This is our Senator, Carol Fukunaga. This is Carol. I caught up our so she has been a vanguard for us, and we have been working on this with her for a bit, but we have been working together to restore the uplands, which is what we call watershed. In old times, the watershed was the most important part the whole Ahupua'a, because there is where the living source comes from. And that's where the Konihiki would be living in. But he knew from the very top of the mountain, the tip of the mountain, where all the ali'i would spend their time, the god and goddesses of that valley down to the ocean. We're preparing a restoration and also not to restore, but to give a plan to Ipo's. And hope Ipo's have a time to look at this plan. And I'm going to give Uncle Matt.
Oh, we go. His number to contact. Yeah.
When Uncle Bruce calls you uncle, you got no choice, yeah. My phone number. Okay, you can call me at 808-386-8470. I'm not going to recognize your number, so text me better. And I've submitted my email address in the registration form, and that is how I can put you folks in touch with Uncle Bruce and Auntie Howell. And if we are lucky, we can get in touch with Waikiakua Forest herself.
Yeah, and speak about our testimony, written testimony.
We're preparing written testimony, which will be submitted, and it will be a coalition, Living Life Source Foundation, which Uncle Bruce and NTK represent. The Albizia Project, which is a UH student-founded project. Many of you may remember the Albizia house that was at the corner of Metcalfe and University for a number of years. And that project continues to develop innovative uses for this material so that we can develop economic drivers for ecosystem restoration. We're working at a small scale now, doing pilots so that we can figure out the economies of scale to go large scale. And there will likely be others included on that coalition. What else do you want me to cover, Uncle?
I want to introduce one more person.
Aye.
What's your name?
Aloha, I'm Sienna Stream Fellow, and like I said earlier, I grew up in the Alawai Harbor, which is the mouth to the Alawai. I work in restoration. I went to school in this area, and I'm working in Waiakeakua with Uncle Bruce to restore the area.
And if you want to gather with us, what is the date?
On December 30th, we are hosting a restoration project at Waiakeakua with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We'll be planting native species and introducing people to the sacred space of Waiakeakua if you would like to join. It'll be at 9 a.m. We have a website, waiakeakuaforest.com, and we would love to see you guys out there.
How many trees?
And we'll be planting 400 plants. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing, and we want to make sure that we don't just say it, but we do it. So for my family and my inheritance, I bow to you both. In my humble way, please come see us.
Mahalo. Okay, so that concludes our comment session for this evening. We encourage everyone to stay engaged. Please continue to submit comments. Again, you can use the QR code. You can take physical comment forms. We have another public meeting tomorrow evening online, so feel free to join there. And again, the comment period is a 45-day period. It ends on January 8th. Very, very many thanks to all of you. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for your heartfelt thoughts and comments, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you too. Thank you.